people. That indicate that it's the last of the attempts to be there, and the instructions to destroy those confidential aspects. So you can see it's in the wrapping up state. But it is very unfortunate for the world that a constitutionally selected government of Afghanistan people, they have been meted out this treatment in the international affair. I think if you look at Pakistan, support by China, and what Taliban has done, and there are 10,000 foreign terrorists who are fighting along with them. And there are 20,000 terrorists, which the Afghanistan president had told that they had been sent by Pakistan last month. But the blame is also on the entire world. And the entire world should be ready for the consequences, the impact of this. It is the fundamentalism, extremism, and jihadism which is going to emanate from there. And it is all being crafted by Pakistan. In fact, if you look at the Pakistan, they've been talking about big strategies of creating strategic asset in the form of Taliban. They've been talking about strategic space. They've been talking about strategic depth. But unfortunately, it is the war which has been imposed by Pakistan on Afghanistan people. One feels very sorry for Afghanistan people that this the status into which they have been locked into at this moment. In fact, the atrocities.
And you know, Lieutenant General Saab, if I could just quickly interrupt you, because there is this one video, sir, that we are playing out on your screens, and you know, the story is moving so fast. There are continuous updates coming in, so do forgive me because it's important to get our viewers these updates too. Now, this is a video of the Afghan commander who's signing the act of handing over his entire brigade along with personnel and equipment on the outskirts of Kabul. This is what we are learning. You know, the entire process of the Afghan commander, they're surrendering there. That all has been captured. And that's the video right now that you see on your screen, sir. Lieutenant General Saab, you know, this is a question that all of us have been asking each other. And you know, the pace of the movement of the Taliban, the way they have moved so swiftly this time, without, you know, a lot of resistance also that has come in from a lot of provinces. What really does this tell us? You know, is this a new Taliban? Is there some kind of a makeover that they've had? Or is this more got to do with the kind of power they literally have enjoyed?
Ma'am, as a soldier, I think my perspective, it is one of the most unfortunate things that they have surrendered without even opposing them. Unopposed surrender is just not acceptable as a soldier. In fact, for 20 years, they had all the support from the US and the NATO.
I'm just sitting here watching, folks. We can watch together.
But unfortunately, the status that they have into it, I think, to be very honest, Afghanistan National Defense and the Security Forces, they should have stood their ground.
just surrendered.
Yesterday, the president said that remobilization
and
all those aspects which have been brought out, the way they were fighting out in Mazar-e-Sharif, but I believe even Jalalabad has been captured by them. And what you're talking is about the Afghan National Army 203 Thunder Corps, which was in Khost, had surrendered to them.
Ooh, I think, opulent,
okay, Lieutenant General Saab, apologies. I just need to quickly interrupt you here. Neelam Deo, the former diplomat, also joins us right now. Miss Neelam, what is your reading, ma'am, of what we are looking at right now? And, you know, a comment,
Afghan
I think,
Air Force pilots flying the Taliban around. Wow.
Well, I think it's a great tragedy that we are looking at unfolding. I think the biggest victims will be women. I think it will be a repeat of when the Soviet Union was pushed out. And after 3 years, Najibullah was hanged by the Taliban. I think you're going to see it's a civil war is what we are heading towards, with women as particular victims, given the philosophy of the Taliban in the past and what they are already doing in the areas that they have conquered.
And who's responsible for this, you know, Ms. Neelam? Because, you know, a lot of our guests, and I'm sure that you also hold a very strong opinion on this, did America even have an exit strategy, or all that they wanted to do was exit?
Look,
running away.
I don't know whether America had an end strategy or not, but I think their president has made clear what his policy was. I think we need not forget how long Pakistan has been interfering in Afghan affairs and how long they have nurtured, supported, trained, assisted in every way, the Taliban. I think this is a case where everyone from outside has played their own game and nobody has cared what happens to the Afghan people.
I think very well said there. Very well put, Neelam Dio. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking to us. We look forward to connecting with you again live a little later in the broadcast. Hayatullah is also a journalist who's joining us in the broadcast from Afghanistan. Hayatullah, we hope you're well. We hope you're safe. What is it that you can tell us about what's going on around you?
Yeah, thank you very much that you give me that opportunity to speak with you, with your TV. Unfortunately, that the Balfour situation is so bad, so good. You know that this morning, that last night or this morning, that the Balfour is.
Beckman says Chinese, Russian, Iranian, and Israeli invasion for the Belt and Road. Maybe we have to put it in that context.
Came from Pakistan and support the Taliban, and now that the territory of the Balfour is all.
Thanks, America.
Fallen by them, and now
thanks for all the equipment for the Belt and Road.
And how are the locals holding up? How are all of you holding up? You know, the Taliban continues to say that they mean no harm to the locals, and they will not enter by force. Hayatullah.
Yeah, but if we compare that the habitual, or if we compare the attitude of or behavior of Taliban with the 20 years ago, that is so change coming. That, by example, that 2 days more than 100 politicians that surrendered by Taliban, they all of them gave to their homes, but no one killed by Taliban. That shows a good message for all politicians in the Afghanistan, especially in the north of Afghanistan. Without Marshal Dostum, without General Atta Mohammad Noor, they escaped to north of Afghanistan, the north of country of Afghanistan, like by example to Uzbekistan. But another politicians, another journalist, or another activist, soil activist, human rights activists, all of them is this morning.
ISIS is the Taliban now, dude.
That arrested by Taliban.
They will split up. They'll split up Afghanistan. They'll have each their fiefdoms.
And now, 10 minutes ago, I achieved to my home. That shows the changing of policy, the Taliban.
Okay, and Hayatullah, there's one more question I want to ask you. Where is the Afghan president? You know, we've heard his office actually saying that they have the city under control. There is no need for the people to worry. But do we know about what happens?
The president is tweeting. Can I get his handle?
On to power now?
What's his Twitter handle?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the more difficult issues between the Afghan civilian is that what will happen in coming years, in coming months. They don't know about it. The incoming government, what will be that government. They don't know. Like me, I don't know about my future. I can't decide what I can't decide. I stay there, or I will be immigrate to other countries. That shows the situation of the people of Afghanistan. All of them have that much like me. So we wish from Taliban to make or establish a good government. That government be representative from all of
Biden's turned into Baghdad Bob.
Ethnic. It should be like representative from Tajik, from Pashtun, from Hazara, and etc. And they respect to the rights of women. That's our idea, and we wish, we hope from Taliban to do that.
Yes, Hayatullah, you know, I think those are important words of hope right now, hope and prayer. I think that is what we are all also doing for you from India here. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Stay safe, Hayatullah. We'll reconnect with you later also for more updates. I also want to say good afternoon to Alok Bansal, who's joining us live right now as the director of the India Foundation. And apologies, Mr. Bansal, for keeping you waiting. But how do you read, sir, into what is happening? You know, the story moving very, very fast. We do not know about Ashraf Ghani yet, but, you know, I don't know what happens next in the next few hours. The Taliban again says that we are not doing anything by force. There are visuals of the Afghan commander there surrendering without any kind of resistance. Alok Bansal, what do we make of what's going on?
We need to understand that in Afghanistan, the power change has always taken place like this. It is no one has actually won it by militarily defeating. It's because of key commanders crossing over, because psychologically they believe that they are going to lose. This happened when Najibullah fell. This happened how Taliban captured Kabul last time. And this seems to be happening again when Taliban is capturing. As I said, that the US announcement of withdrawal actually dealt that psychological blow. And consequently, we are seeing this is just a brigade commander who is left. I don't think so. The entire Kabul is under their control. The airport is firmly with the Americans as of now.
Leave me links, folks.
Taliban's assurances mean nothing. Taliban have categorically indicated so many times that all the assurances that they gave in Doha or subsequently mean nothing. They are driven by a puritanical mindset and they will impose their rules on the population. In the areas that they have occupied, the women are not permitted to work. They have already been banned from working. They have targeted people who do not agree, and their ways of dealing with them have been extremely brutal. So if Taliban totally falls under the sway of Kabul falls totally under the sway of Taliban, and Afghan government actually is completely wiped off, we will have a serious issue, because then an Afghan Islamic Emirate is established, which would become as a hub for this radical ideology to be spread to other places. And most of these Taliban fighters will relocate to other battlefields, which may as well be inside India and in other parts of the region.
And as you actually tell us all that and your perspective, there is one important breaking update that our colleague Abhishek is getting for us. He tells us that Marshal Dostum and General Ata Noor have moved to Uzbekistan. They have been facilitated by the Americans. So you do see a lot of that movement. Ata Muhammad Noor, who's the former governor of the Balkh province, and the ethnic Uzbek leader Abdul Rashid Dostum, they have, for our viewers, been involved in wars in Afghanistan since the days of the Soviet invasion. They have been amongst the Taliban's fiercest enemies. They have been moved right now to Uzbekistan with the help of the Americans, is what Abhishek is breaking for us. And I think we have one more guest joining us, Commodore Jija Singh Saab, also on the phone.
General Bakshi, we need General Bakshi.
What's going on? Commodore Jija Singh Saab, a very happy Independence Day to you, sir. What's happening in our neighborhood? How should New Delhi look at all this?
You see, first of all, let me make it very clear. To be honest, as an independent military analyst, I must tell you that the Taliban had moved into the gates of Kabul almost 2 to 3 days before, and they were there trying to negotiate a surrender from the Afghan army and commanders. And now I see them succeeding.
What's going on? They're running out of Afghanistan. It's literal Saigon again.
We will
DNA plastic,
come inside and can cause a lot of bloodshed. If you don't want any bloodshed, we will try to have a very negotiated surrender. We will not harm you. And they were convincing them, and now I see them succeeding. So this is a victory for the Taliban. In fact, I would say that Kabul has already fallen to them. There is nothing left now. Almost every important city.
They may bring hell. They'll bring Islam, that's for sure.
The provinces are already with the Taliban. And as I see now that Ata Noor has also moved to Uzbekistan, which has been facilitated by the Americans. And this is now going to be a huge concern for the international community, because this is going to be a breeding ground for the terrorists, and they can cause havoc around the globe, not only in a particular part that may be Kashmir, but I would say that everywhere. So this is a global problem now. This is something which the superpowers will have to look into. But then we again see a division, because China has already stated that they will recognize this government and then all the other allies of China, countries like North Korea and the other rogue states, and you never know about Iran also, Turkey, they will give recognition, and there is going to be a complete change in the axis of power. So this is the reality on ground. The rest, you can say anything. You can say that they will be moved out, and by the rhetorics of Ashraf Ghani. Ashraf Ghani is probably now be trying to negotiate for safe passage outside Afghanistan, because he is also something which is not being liked.
There'll be the Taliban playing cards.
Prevailing things on the ground. It is the military now completely in charge.
Look at them just driving around in US hardware, man.
Had surrendered, and they are in the process of surrendering, because Taliban has completely broken the spirit, shattered the spirit of the Afghan army. They have no
And who's to be blamed? Commodore G.J. Singh Saab, that is going to be a longer debate. Who's to be blamed for this? Who did not read the writing on the wall? But thank you so much, sir. Again, we look forward to connecting with you a little later here live on the news. I again want to go back to Alok Bansal, but then I also have certain updates that I think, Mr. Bansal, we should share with our viewers. Now, this is an information that is just coming in from the Twitter handle of the US Embassy in Kabul. They say that we have conveyed to the Taliban representatives in Doha that any action on their part that puts the US personnel or our mission at risk will be met with a swift and a strong response. Not just that, viewers, if you read very closely on the bottom of your screens, a lot of those breaking updates are also flashing. They do indicate that America again has authorized the deployment of about 5,000 more US troops to ensure an orderly and safe drawdown of the US Embassy and other allied personnel, Mr. Bansal. So the story moving very, very fast. You're looking at the US trying to ensure that all its personnel are brought back to safety, Mr. Bansal. But
Alex says the collapse of Kabul closes the war on terror. We are now in 20 years of biological warfare. Yeah, very likely. Very likely.
That has been asked. That Bargam airbase.
Know what they say?
That is an airbase, Bansal Saab, that you had seen the US force actually evacuating at night itself. They did not even do a proper handover to the Afghan commanders. Were they really interested in stabilizing Afghanistan, or as you've heard Joe Biden saying that we are not here for nation building?
So that's what is the problem. We need to understand that the whole US actions in last 1 year plus have been really extremely detrimental to the long-term stability of Afghanistan. Firstly, US decided to negotiate with Taliban directly, bypassing the Afghan government, which actually gave Taliban a huge
Don't worry, Mr. Jiggles, have faith,
as well
have faith
as
in Allah.
their stature. Because in a tribal society, which is extremely hierarchical, when you negotiate with someone, you actually elevate the stature of that person. At the same time, by bypassing Ashraf Ghani completely, you actually made him an hapless president. You actually weakened him in the past. And as I said, in Afghanistan, the wars have been won on the psychological front more than on the military front. Now, thereafter, Biden's declaration that he's pulling out of Afghanistan by
this may become the most infamous and devastating press conference ever held by an American president.
And that thereafter we saw, because most of the Taliban launched its all-out offensive, and most of the troops in border posts actually deserted. Now, what we are seeing today also, that one brigade commander has deserted, handing over complete brigade to Taliban. Now, it is this sort of desertions which are dangerous. Also, unlike the last time, this time the government in Kabul is totally surrounded. There is no escape route, there is no supply route. Unlike last time when they had the northern flank open, Badakhshan, Panjshir, etc. had never fallen to Taliban. This time, these provinces were the first to fall. The road links with Uzbekistan, Tajikistan have been closed. So only supply route is now through the air. And that is also now severely getting limited, the way things are happening. So US attempts are basically extremely concerned about their own citizens. It would only aggravate the situation as far as Afghanistan is concerned. I don't think so it is going to solve any problem.
That is the point. That is the point, I think. But a lot of questions then will be asked. Let's also see if we can get in KK Sinha Saab, who is also joining us live right now. And for viewers tuning into the broadcast and looking at these images on your screens, remember, this is the global story of what's happening in Afghanistan, a story that Republic has tracked very, very closely for the last few days, KK Sinha Saab. And this was just a matter of time, that you will see the forces, the Taliban forces entering Kabul. But I want to understand today that, should this just be seen in a simplistic manner? Because the story obviously is not simple, KK Sinha Saab. It's a huge humanitarian crisis staring at all our faces. There are reports saying that a lot of locals have moved out of their houses. They don't have cash. ATMs, machines there have stopped working. There is obviously some bit of fear and panic.
You are absolutely correct. When you are bringing out a lot of hardship is the people
DJ
of
is right.
Afghanistan.
How many more recruits are going to get?
Anyone is to blame in the United States of America because the strategic mistake they did it, on the behest of Pakistan. They did the strategic mistake in 2018 when they released Mullah Bradar from the prison of Pakistan and tried to put it a political face at Doha. How can you, the terrorist, to whom you have apprehended, you again negotiate and make him the political head? He was the political head at Doha, and they were negotiating. So they have cheated the people of Afghanistan, not only with the government, with the present government, but they cheated with the normal people of Afghanistan. The way they came, the way the things were happening, and they withdrew. It was going to happen, and it happened. And it happened so fast that the whole world is surprised. See what is happening. We thought that the Americans are coming back when they said that 5,000 odd soldiers are going to come back. It looked like that they are going to take review of this of the situation on ground, and they will review their decision. But probably that is not happening. And what they were saying that they are coming for the withdrawal of their safe evacuation of their own people. Probably that is happening.
Oh, yes.
And, it is always there. When in 1994, when the Taliban came, it took 2 years to take over that, the complete Afghanistan in 96. And they were...
KK Sinha Saab, I have one more breaking update, sir. I just want to read that for our viewers. And we also want to see if we can get an Abhishek reporting all that development for us. He tells us that after Ata Noor and Dostam now, this is a speaker of the lower house of Afghanistan. The Volsiya Jirga, Mir Rahman Rahmani and other leaders have also been evacuated. They leave for Pakistan by a PIA flight, Captain Alok Bansal. So, was there not a hint of what was happening, considering that, you've seen such kind of an evacuation already, some to Uzbekistan, others to
that
Pakistan.
Punjabi prepper. Yeah, masked
That's
up.
what I'm trying to tell you, that at this sort of a scenario, when
Bakshi, we need General Bakshi.
And the morale has
General
actually
Bakshi.
sunken to the lower
General
level,
Bakshi.
each man is for himself, and people are actually worried about their personal safety, because if Taliban captures, we know what happened last time. They hung Najibullah and his brother after killing them brutally. And many of these leaders who are escaping, if they would have been apprehended, they would meet the same fate. So they are worried about their individual safety. And when this sort of a situation arises, then you start seeing desertions, because each man to himself. And this thing is also being seen with Dostam disappearing to Uzbekistan, and now the speaker also going. But I still have hope that as long as Ashraf Ghani, Amrullah Saleh, and the army chief Ali Jai, and of course General Shadak are holding on, there is some glimmer of hope. Though the way desertions are taking place and the way Taliban has surrounded, the supply lines would have been choked and cut. The Afghan government's capability to withstand this sort of a pressure without any international support is going to be extremely limited. So I think if the international community wants to interfere, this is the time the Americans must
I'm back, Holly.
insist
Kabul
on
is falling. This is just live. I'm just saying it. It's a watch party. Grab popcorn.
About this sort of a situation.
We're waiting for GD Bakshi.
GD Bakshi. Stability comes to
nonsense. It goes.
But then Captain Alok Bansal, I've always had that question, that this group that was negotiating in Doha, how is it that in spite of those negotiations, you had the Taliban moving at such a rapid pace back here? Does this mean, there was a division in that entire group? Does this mean that the people who were talking were not
division.
the people,
Let me tell you, Taliban
being communicated?
never stays by their commitment. Their whole aim was always to capture power in Afghanistan.
Retardation does run rife through the ranks.
Talked of giving rights to minorities. They may have talked
and
of
I think Mrs.
women.
Jiggles is
But
right.
these are
The
all
Islamist
views.
groups will start fighting amongst each other.
Subterfuge. This is actually facade, charade, primarily to fool the Western world and the international community. They basically wanted Americans to withdraw, and as soon as the Americans said they are withdrawing, they have actually launched their offensive. Now, this Americans could have withdrawn, but the manner in which they did it has actually broken the morale of the
Calvin
government.
says Afghanistan has expelled the great Satan
this sort of
based.
catastrophic developments that are taking place, which will have immense adverse impact not only for Afghanistan but for the entire region.
All right, Captain Alok Bansal, Major General KK Sinha Saab, I request both of you gentlemen to please stay with us. We are just heading to a quick break, but on the other side, we get you a live reportage coming in from Kabul. What is happening there? What are the problems the locals are facing? What is the big picture? Reactions from New Delhi, all that after this quick break.
This is the picture or the collapse of the American empire, cookie cutter. It's the invasion by Russia, China and Iran, Pakistan for the Belt and Road.
What do you have to say about destroying evidence? Were you fabricating this? Why had you gone to this number plate shop to find out the number plate? Were you there to collect the CCTV footage? Were you destroying the evidence? Mr. Khan?
I love Indian TV. It's great. Great. It's been a revelation to me. Let's see. Let's catch up with the chat. Bernadette Barrow says, I just wish Bakshi unleashed the Brahmas on the snake people. What can we say?
So what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Sweet Fanny Adams, is it?
The Kabul rulers built a defensive wall around the city to protect it from enemy raids. This wall has survived until today. What happened to the wall? It was opened by Afghans, very likely. And as I say, Clifford saying that they have expelled the great Satan, and there will be much rejoicing, and then I'm sure much head chopping as the Afghan. Oh, wait, get some bass.
कभी भी दुश्मनों से बदला लेने के लिए हमेशा तैयार हूँ। भारत के कोने-कोने से है वीरों का दल। जय हिंद, जय हिंद, जय भारत, भारत माता की, भारत माता की।
All of the dead bodies, most of the dead bodies are being taken inside this particular truck that I'm showing you. The non-COVID bodies and the COVID bodies are lying together in that truck. We see a proper huge mismanagement. The vehicle is from Nagar Palika and inside it 10 dead bodies are there. Let's actually go to him, one of the men from the administration, and ask him, मैं नोट करके body को क्यों ले जाया गया सर? वो उनके पंचर करे non-COVID.
She's the only one with PPE. Everyone else just strolling around.
अब आप लोग एम्बुलेंस निकाल रहे क्योंकि अब ट्रक का हो गया सब. अब आप लोग एम्बुलेंस निकाल रहे. ये एम्बुलेंस पहले क्यों नहीं निकली सर?
Mr. Bhandari, Mr. Bhandari, Mr. Bhandari.
Well, don't tell me there are Indian criminals hiding in the UK. Surely not.
Mr. Bhandari, just one question, sir. Why don't you give me an interview?
इंटरव्यू पूछना पड़ेगा मेरे को लॉयर से, पर मैं तुम्हें क्वेश्चंस के जवाब दूं। वो भी पूछ।
How will I
would love to do that.
मैं कोर्ट नहीं कर
प्रॉब्लम है कि तुम पब्लिक से आ गए।
नहीं one second.
Come on, live reports coming from. All right, it's worse than Fox.
8 हार्ड ड्राइव का डेटा डिलीट हुआ था या नहीं? सिद्धार्थ, मुझे बताइए 8 तारीख को डेटा डिलीट हुआ था। क्या आपके और नीरज के बयान अलग-अलग? क्या 13 तारीख को लोग आए?
जो भी हमारे घर पे आए थे ना, मैंने उनके बता दिया।
कौन आए थे?
For those wondering what we are watching, this is Republic World, the seizure-inducing base news channel out of India, home of Bakshi, the base general of Japan. I think he should be Prime Minister. Do they call him Prime Minister? Whatever. They're Emperor. Bakshi for Emperor, I say. Let's see. We did that. I just wish Bakshi, I did that one. It becomes an open breeding ground for terrorists. For that, we can say.
We come back to our non-stop rolling coverage of what really is happening right now in Afghanistan. And Taliban, remember, is closing in on the Afghan capital. You're hearing non-stop breaking updates that are continuing to come in, telling you more of
Pedro
what has happened
says,
so far. Nizamuddin Kayseri has also been captured by the Taliban.
thanks USA for all the hardware. Next stop, Tel Aviv.
The Taliban are behind the gates of the Kabul. They are just waiting for the US embassy staff and other foreigners to leave to enter the city, is what we also reported for you just a little while earlier. Complete chaos in Afghanistan. We have been speaking to a lot of experts, a lot of local journalists,
But
to tell
not
us
Judy
more
Batchy.
of what is happening on
Judy Batchy.
Zero. Remember, there is still a lot of panic and fear in the locals. They do not know of what could happen next. But there is a report coming in that does indicate right now that a lot of these locals who are reaching the banks and all to actually take out some money and cash, you're looking at ATMs, machines that are not working. A lot of other supplies
because the president of Afghanistan has done a runner with all the money, loaded it into the plane.
As the US and other nations have rushed now to evacuate
Keep that hard
the
currency
city.
close by.
On the right of your screens are images of earlier today, where the US evacuation is underway right now. The Afghan president Ashraf Ghani's office has said
America is to
that the
blame.
national forces have the city
Yes.
under control, and there is no need for the people to worry. Right now on your screens, you're looking at a new video that has been accessed by Republic. This is Nizamuddin Kayseri, who's been captured by the Taliban. You know, again, as I said, this is going to be a story of humongous proportions. Considering the kind of humanitarian crisis we are looking at. A lot of these evacuations already have started to happen. You're hearing and also
Are we going to get a beheading?
There by agencies right now that a lot of these
Beheading on
speaker
live
also
on TV?
in the Afghan parliament there has moved on to Pakistan. Also, we do know that the Mazar-e-Sharif police commander there has surrendered.
Bakshi for
There is
Supreme
not
Warlord,
enough,
says Anxious
information
Aussie.
right now whether this was done under duress or was there some kind of a resistance also that was offered by the police commander. But any expert will again tell you that the story is far from over. You know, the story begins from here. What happens to Ashraf Ghani from here on? What happens to his government? How will the governance happen? Is this going to be a total control of the Taliban? All that and much more is what we'll keep our focus on after this quick break.
Okay, friends, here are some more scary updates from Afghanistan. It's unfolding fast. I mean, within a matter of days, we have seen Taliban actually gaining control of multiple cities. Almost all of the major cities that the world knows about in Afghanistan are now in control of the Taliban, and one of the main reasons is that neither the Taliban, neither the Afghan forces nor the paramilitary or some other kind of people's resistance actually tried to push back against this takeover. Maybe because they were quite scared, but the scary updates that I was talking about, I mean, let's get back to that fast. So we have received updates that the passport office in Kabul has been evacuated and people have been told to go home, which means that all entry exit hereafter, even from Kabul airport, will be watched and will be monitored only by the Taliban officials. Some of the reports also suggest that a few of Taliban officials are in the city of Kabul
downstairs,
itself, but they have not yet rolled in the form of a convoy, maybe because they don't want to create bad visuals, and it's some media persons are terming it to be a peaceful transition, an efficient transition.
Should pray for
where
everyone.
The Taliban will also be part of the government, the next government, and yeah, so the other thing is that the people in Kabul are now rushing to the banks to withdraw all of their savings, which is another scary thing. I mean, the US assessment was that it would take at least some months, if not weeks, for the Taliban to be actually moving into Kabul, but it seems that within a matter of days they are very much now in Kabul, and the international community has come around to accept it. So that's great. So that's like, I mean, what to say about it, because the people in Afghanistan are really such an unprecedented situation they are facing. Totally, they are in the dark about their future. But more importantly, and I think the other most important update is that all of the diplomats and the staffers of the embassies in Kabul that are still operational, they would most likely be, airlifted by way of helicopters all the way to Kabul airport, and thereafter they would be allowed to board a plane and fly to their own country or whichever other country they would want to go. So this essentially means that even entry exit points of Kabul is being watched and is being controlled by Taliban. Today, this day, history of some kind has been made, because for all practical purposes, Taliban is in control of the whole of Afghanistan. What role various countries of the international community have played, well, history will obviously judge, and jury is still out. But then, well, what happens hereafter will also be, will also have to be, you have to
CNN is live from Kabul.
Whatever the consequences hereafter are. So
anyone have a link for?
We'll keep a watch on the unfolding situation.
Topping our world lead right now, U.S. troops are heading to Afghanistan for an urgent rescue mission. They're there to evacuate non-essential American embassy personnel and get Afghan allies out as soon as possible, all while the Taliban rapidly advance. Starting in June, you can see the Taliban in red wrestling back and
forth. Live now.
Really hard to get in perfect shape. I don't know really what prompted her to want to do the pageant, other than
goddamn American TV. It's sad. There's no. I don't have any live CNN. I don't have any live CNN, folks. Oh, let's go back.
And this is the acting Interior Minister Abdul Sattar Mirzakhwal,
Afghanistan
who
government officially surrenders.
There is going to be a peaceful transfer of power, and this officially then means that the Afghan government has officially surrendered. What really does that mean? Lot more live stories and breaking updates continue to come on that story. Do not go anywhere. We are back after this quick break.
Tell him to come here.
At Amity, we are committed to building.
Let's see. Saw a comment up here. That's one small step for the Taliban, one giant step for Islam.
Allahu Akbar!
She's like an Indian Geraldo, maybe. Let's see. What else do we have here? Should we be praying for that? Yes, I did that one. Yes, pray for everyone right now. There's going to be a lot of smiting of necks, I would imagine. Live feed 247 now says, next stop for the Taliban, crossing the English Channel and getting a warm welcome and unlimited free hotels. Very likely. Let's see. Warlords versus Taliban next. Distraction. The Dems might be planning something domestically. Maybe. Who is Dajjal, Cobra? Who is Dajjal? Who knows? But maybe
the Jew
knows. Let's see. Talibans will join China or have objections to Uyghur maltreatment. Yeah, I don't see the Taliban making a big deal about Uyghur mistreatment, to tell the truth. What is this? Cobra, armed and ready to rock. CNN USA. maybe it's locked off from me, but I don't see anything live. Nothing live. See, they suck. I'm better than CNN. You're better off here, folks. Let's see. I don't think Cav has any YouTube mods on at the moment, unless that Jigs or Houstonic about. No, probably not. Oh, dead hands. Something. Indeed. See, I'm just waiting for Republic to catch up. The US Embassy in Kabul urgently destroys sensitive material to keep it from falling in the hands of the Taliban. That's all the names and addresses of all those that were on the payroll of the United States. You all know they're getting lined up, and the head chopping will commence. Trump blames Biden for complete failure and total strategic incoherence. Asks, "Do you miss me yet?" Hashtag Afghanistan. Trump trolling the Biden administration in their failure. It is what it is. America is back. January 2021. Taliban, please don't touch the embassy. We'll pay you. Let the memes flow, folks. Let the meme flows. Can I make Aussie a mod? Oh, I think I can. Something went wrong. Something went wrong. Just waiting on the public not doing anything. Okay. There we go. We have one moderator. CNN is garbage. Yeah, I'm just looking for live feeds from anything from Kabul. I mean, the most we have is this and about 30 seconds of footage from Republic World. That name means Satan. Dajjal? You mean...
The Jew.
See, Dark and Aussie need wrenches. Let's see. Okay. CNN Live. Thank you, good doggy.
With his national security advisor and other senior officials. He said that Americans were involved in these conversations. This is where it's not entirely clear. And then there were contacts with the Taliban. So whether or not there are talks happening in Kabul involving members of the Taliban, unclear, or whether those are happening via remote, that's also unclear. I also was told that the president's about to have a video call with his Minister of Interior. So the presidency at least giving off the idea that they are still very much here, still very much in control. The Taliban are not in the city. I should go on to say, it does sound...
They sound out of
Afghan
date.
government officially deciding there to surrender to the Taliban. The government has said that we will ensure a peaceful transfer of power. How really will that happen? What will be the terms and conditions? There isn't too much of clarity on that. But we do know that Ashraf Ghani earlier, remember, had said that there is not going to be any violence. And he had said that they are very much in control of the situation. And that was about a few hours earlier. Then we also told you the entire story breaking of how Taliban has closed it on Kabul. Now we are learning that the government says they will ensure a peaceful transfer of power. Do not go anywhere. The story continues to get bigger on the other side. We get you that reaction that has just come in from the Interior Minister of Afghanistan, who says that there is going to be right now and peaceful transfer of power, even as US begins its evacuations.
I don't see anything live. It's literally just CNN.
At Amity, we are committed to building a stronger India through world-class education and research.
It's almost unheard of to see this number of Afghan special forces in one place at one time. They're regrouping in Kabul. They're well trained and heavily armed. Together, they're a formidable force. But they're desperately needed in the capital. The Taliban are just miles away now. Steadily, the British and American soldiers, and crucially their equipment, are arriving at Kabul. Transporter planes
To do a runner! You're running away!
Moving towards the military.
You yellow bastards!
Complex.
I'll bite your legs off!
Helicopter gunships are being prepared for imminent deployment to protect the evacuation of foreign nationals and the Afghan workers employed here for 2 decades. The 600 British soldiers from the 16th Air Assault Brigade have been loaded onto planes and will immediately secure the airport and prepare to assist in the withdrawal on arrival. It's hoped these British and American troops will cause the Taliban to hesitate in attacking. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani is quickly losing his grip here. Many thought he would stand down, but he's told the nation he intends to restore order.
Our dear country Afghanistan is in serious danger of instability due to the war imposed on us. I'm aware of the situation in Afghanistan. In the current situation, the reintegration of the security and defense forces is our priority, and serious measures are being taken in this regard.
In the midst of tightening security, the government held hours of talks discussing a Taliban offer of a ceasefire and an interim government. It came to nothing.
Well, both the government and the Taliban have rejected previous proposals that could have brought about a ceasefire and some form of power sharing. The latest proposal from the Taliban involved the president standing down, which he's rejected. But the fact that he said he's going to go after the Taliban can only mean bad news for Kabul, and more importantly, for the people who live here.
Many we spoke to said all they wanted was peace, and some said they'd accept the Taliban, especially if they showed they had changed.
Right now it's fine. The people is good with them. They said everyone can go to school, the girls, the boys. Life is normal, but in the future we don't know.
Right.
Yes, but recently life has become difficult for people. People worried about the way Taliban treat us before and now it's a little different.
The question is, can you trust them to be nice?
Well, we just want peace.
But the early indicators of a reformed Taliban aren't looking good. In Kandahar,
you
they've
think?
taken over the radio station. It's now Sharia radio. Women know they'll suffer the
Are you scared now about...
I'm not scared. If I'm a girl, you know, I know that Taliban is fighting in Maidan Shahar. That's the entry gate of Kabul. They are here. I'm not afraid of them. We are not the people who will, you know, go back to the dark era. I'm a girl and I don't care about anyone. Not Pakistan, not America, nobody else. I'm here even today. If they kill me, if they identify me, I will not care about them. I will not care about them.
I see a beating in the future.
Change is coming here now, whatever the president says. The Taliban's inexorable advance on Kabul is almost complete. The coalition forces will likely only delay the inevitable.
Yeah, it delayed it about 12 hours. 12 hours, really. I'm just looking for live links, folks. Wait.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jaloya meraban khudai pe specially nama.
It's almost
the Kabul khar drano piawadi wallasa mushrano spingiro khiyando avruno assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. زه د کورنۍ چارو د وزارت په توګه وزیر په توګه خپل ټول امنیتي او دفاعي ځواکونه امنیتي حوزې د امنیت ملي مفرزې همدارنګه د خاص کتاب د کابل کې د نظم د جوړولو لپاره تابع شوي دي دا اوس په ښار کې ځای په ځای کېږي خلک د هېڅ تشویش نه کوي ښار په امن کې ده هر هغه څوک چې د ښار د بېنظمۍ سبب ګرځي په غوڅ او قاطعیت به د هغوی غوڅ برخورد کېږي د ښار مسؤلیت تضمین ده په ښار حمله نه کېږي او لوی ښار کابل توافق دا ده چې دا به په مسلمت آمیزه توګه د یو بري ادارې تر مشرۍ لاندې به انشاءالله دا قدرت انتقالېږي. نور د ښار امن زموږ مسؤلیت ته په ټول قوت به یې ساتو. هېڅوک تر تبلیغاتو او پروپاګاندا تر تاثیر لاندې رانشي. هر څه نورمال دي. زموږ حوزې، زموږ امنیتي او دفاعي ځواکونه د تیارسۍ په حال کې دي. د ښار د نظم د جوړولو دپاره ټول ښاریان د تشویش نه کوي. کابل په امن کې ده، مطمئن اوسئ. په کابل هیڅ مشکل نه.
Apologies about that, folks. That's the seizure-inducing Republic World, not me. I'm just looking on Twitter for anything, any updates. Nothing. Like I say, get used to it being dark from Afghanistan now. Biden's desertion of Afghanistan will be his Vietnam, a self-inflicted wound of disastrous proportions, incredible and utterly shameful that the most woke US president in history has left millions of women to the merciless, murderous clutches of the world's worst misogynists. Base Taliban.
Allahu Akbar!
There's so many catastrophes to keep up with. All of them man-made, including the biowarfare you find yourself in right now. Afghanistan, the graveyard of empires. Fantastic. Sun Tzu. That's great. Conflicting stories. Afghanistan Interior Ministry saying entry from all sides. Taliban saying instructed to remain at the gates. Who are you believing? I'm going with the old Taliban on this one. I think everyone else is just starting to look a bit like Baghdad Bob. One of the key lessons from history is keep out of Afghanistan. Just make sure Afghanistan keeps out of here. Civilian plane A1243 from New Delhi just diverted from landing at Kabul airport. Sources reporting that transition of power will take place today at Presidential Palace in Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. There's Pakistan Strategic Forum. Let's have a look at these people. In Kabul, army surrendered to the Taliban. The army chief left his palace and fled. The hashtag TDS, what's TDS? Hashtag Biden. People must be so proud of what they have achieved in Afghanistan. I guess they enjoyed hashtag Libya so much they wanted to do it again. Oof, feel the burn on that one. Let's see here. People trying to contact me left, right, and center right now. I know there are people trying to get in the Discord server. Sorry. Still the adverts. Interior Minister says that it has been agreed that Kabul will not be attacked. Kabul will be handed over to an interim setup, he added. Well, okay. Wall Street Journal. Taliban penetrated Kabul. That's gross. I'm sure that's against Sharia law. Let's have a look at Pakistan Strategic Forum. Let's see. Pakistan's missiles. Yes. We are still waiting for official confirmation from IEA regarding news of Kabul regime surrender.
There will be no forceful takeover of Kabul. People will be safe, is what the Taliban has said. And the latest statement that has also just broken from the Afghan Interior Minister now says that there is going to be a
there you go, American taxpayers. You paid for all that. Look.
So the
That big
Taliban and the
TV.
government there are in talks over power transfer. How really will that be? What will be the broader nuances of that? Republic tracking that and much more when we come back on Top of 3. Do not go anywhere.
It's just adverts from Republic, I'm afraid. Let's see. All provinces of Afghanistan are now under Afghan Taliban control, except Kabul. Not for that much longer. The fall of Kabul, indeed. Smoke spotted coming out of the US embassy, believed to be from burning documents by US officials. Yeah, you would think everything would just be on hard drives that they could say destroy at the press of a button, but now the purge will begin. The purge for turncoats. Pakistan Strategic Forum, we will tweet something really special for someone after fall of Kabul. Staying tuned to PSF. Okay. What do we need? Indian Strategic Forum. Indian Strategic Forum, anyone? Anxious Aussie says, who I have the power. Let's see. No one can trust me yet. Where is the US Secretary of State? It's Kev's space to lose. Kev isn't posting big guns. It is Kev's space to lose. And Kev isn't posting big guns. Oh, talk about these guns. See, this is going to head up the boil. Yes. How many hostages does the Taliban have? I don't know. What's the population of Afghanistan? Okay. How many were helping the US? How many were on the payroll? There you go. Biden has publicly said that he inherited the situation from previous administration, which we know, and said that American presence in another country isn't good for America. Maybe. But it's still shameless. Won't anyone think of the women? Benny says they aren't running away. Okay, dude. And I was sleeping until my dad fell and hit his head on the bathtub. What? They aren't interested anymore. Yeah, but then they're running away. Everyone was interested in the dope there, and now they don't care. We spent $4 trillion on that hellhole, and on their training, it was all stolen money, a massive Pentagon corruption. Maybe. Beeping at me. Loaded. My news. We're waiting for Jidibakshi. Jidibakshi. Paging Jidibakshi.
Sadly, not only predictable, but predicted. And you're right about the military, although, to be fair to the military, we trained them to fight like us and alongside us. So we trained them to fight light and to use long logistics chains and to use air power. And then in the last 2 months, we removed their air power by removing the US contractors who serviced their helicopters. That effectively cut short their logistics chains. And of course, it removed the morale, the will to fight, because we effectively told them that they were on their own, good luck, goodbye. And so, I mean, frankly, it's a little bit like training our Olympic cycling team at the Manchester Velodrome with all the best kit and the best trainers for 20 years, then flying them to Tokyo. And as they get off the plane, chucking them a rusty old tricycle and telling them, there you go, I've trained you, win gold, good luck, goodbye.
We must leave it there, but we're very grateful for your time and your thoughts on this developing story. Chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Tom Tugendhat, thank you very much indeed. So these are live pictures right now
the government leverage is gone.
Kabul.
There is really nothing left. There are many considerations for the Taliban that they may choose to actually moderate their positions. And these are considerations. I don't think they're going to be decisive, and I cannot predict what they will decide. One would be the issue of international legitimacy. I'm assuming that the United States, at least, has made it clear to them that if they don't at least agree on some sort of intergovernment that has some elements of other sides in it, they may not recognize Kabul. That's one possibility. But the other possibility that is equally likely is that the U.S. may just be worried about the staff, and they may just say that they may incentivize Taliban not to attack just so they can take the troops out. And it is possible that those two conversations are happening parallel. They're saying agree on a interim government that has some elements of other side in it to create a legitimizing process. So international community can back you.
Al Jazeera comments.
To them
Akbar.
and promising a more friendly view, like more friendly stance when it comes to international legitimacy if they choose to withstand and not attack the city as they are evacuating the city. I mean, those two things may be happening, and I think those are the kind of the message they're getting from the U.S. and its allies. With regard to other consideration is the issue of domestic legitimacy, and that comes down to foresight. Whether Taliban will have the foresight to think that if they take over Kabul in a surrender deal, how would other Afghans perceive this? How would other Afghans that are not aligned with the Taliban? Taliban cannot claim to represent the entire country. That would be absurd.
The offensive, with militants taking control of Logar province on Saturday. Now 4 more key areas have fallen to Taliban control: the city of Mazar-e Sharif, the Lagman province, and Kundi province as well. And as we've just been seeing, Jalalabad as well, the Taliban meeting no resistance as they poured into that city. Well, we can bring in foreign affairs expert, familiar face, of course, to Sky viewers, Tim Marshall. Good to speak to you, morning. Tim. It'd be great to get your thoughts on this developing story. What's your assessment?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Tom
thank you very much.
MP completely nailed it. I agree with 100% of what he had to say.
Thanks, Mouse.
Thank you. It was
Bimbo Bailey. We'll just do a short one.
Wow. And it's great to hear it from an MP. I don't think we've heard it from our government, and we certainly haven't heard it from the Americans. There's been a lot of they've tried to cloud a lot of the issues. I don't think you can argue anything other than it's an abject failure. Primarily, people paying the price, of course, will be the Afghans, but there is a wider context in which the US, the UK, perhaps you could argue NATO countries, why would anybody trust them? Why would anybody invite them into their countries on a long-term basis? And why would you be frightened of them? So
with their rainbow flags.
Of this, it's not just about the events of the past few weeks. It's about a Western response. Now, I don't like using the term West usually because I think it's outdated. I think it belongs in the previous century. I think
you mean oligarch?
Industrial democracies is a better.
Advanced industrial democracies that are subject to global homo.
And there's been an abject failure. And I go all the way back to 2001. And there was the name the Americans came up for the fight on terrorism, which started in Afghanistan, and it was Operation Enduring Freedom.
And Tim, let's bring things right up to date because the latest lines coming out of Afghanistan suggest that the acting interior minister has said Kabul will not be attacked. The Taliban's leadership are preparing to arrive in Afghanistan, although the timeline for that isn't clear.
Al Jazeera with some great shots.
Saying the transition will happen peacefully. Security forces will ensure Kabul's security. So it seems that both sides are talking and both sides are very keen for this to happen peacefully. Is that reasonable, do you think? Can that actually happen?
Yes, because when Tom Tugendhat, you put it to him that the Defense Secretary had talked about, some of the NATO forces getting together to make a last stand.
Last night, they had sent a message to the Afghan border police as well as the Afghan National Army that they would vacate those border positions. As the Taliban came in, they greeted each other. We have videos that we've been able to see. The mood quite relaxed. Also reports that the border is quiet. There has been no incident, no violence. The fact is that this particular border crossing, although it is the main logistical hub into Afghanistan, has been closed also because of COVID restrictions. But at some point, the Taliban, of course, will be negotiating with the Pakistani side in order to reopen that border like they did at Spin Boldak. This is a key supply line, and any closure of this border could lead to a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan because of large cities like Kabul, Jalalabad, other major cities, and the fact that there is fighting But there is no surprise in the East. Most of the people have lived under Taliban rule. What we've been hearing is there is no panic like you see in Kabul, and the fact that the Taliban have been able to take over most of these positions peacefully.
All right, let's take you to some live pictures now of Kabul, the Afghan capital. Some key moments in this city's history now. We understand that Taliban forces are at the very least on the outskirts of Kabul city.
Oh,
the Taliban says they're given orders.
I think the negotiations were more about Taliban not showing their
Taliban breakfast party after Nagara and Jalalabad
use of violence, and that's why we have seen very restrained pictures of violence coming in. I'm choosing my words very carefully because it's not that violence has not happened, but then not many pictures have emerged. Remember, the last time they came to power in Kabul, we had pictures of their president Najib hanging from City Square and others from the government at that time brutally killed. So I think in that sense, this time the movement of Taliban up to Kabul with the slow creep happening city by city, town by town and province by province has been comparatively peaceful. There are going to be consequences for the region. Specifically, there are going to be consequences for India. The situation is unraveling. Our strategic community is trying to get to grips with this overall situation. Because you mentioned about the humanitarian situation, I would say it's a concern because remember, as yet, it is not a government recognized by any country. There is uncertainty. There are concerns that Taliban might by way of vendetta, carry out some purge of those Afghans who were anti-Taliban, who were supportive of the Americans-backed or the global community-backed.
I think China did recognize the Taliban the other day.
What will happen to the government employees? Remember, one example I'll give you, because we know the tendency of Taliban vis-a-vis women, for example. Herat University, over a period of last 2 decades, had developed such a good ecosystem of co-education that 60% of the students in Herat University are women. Now, what happens to them? Because Taliban does not like women coming out of the house, women getting education. There was this incident day before yesterday, where after the capture of Herat in the city, they went to a bank, and when they saw women employees there, they took out 9 of them and sent them back home and said that they don't come back again for the job. So Taliban don't like women working, Taliban don't like women studying, and the situation so emerges if they are in power, and we can imagine some nations, the likes of Pakistan, would be recognizing them because Taliban happen to be Pakistani proxies. In that sense, what happens to the general society, civilian population, forget about military, in fact, civilian population, what happens to them? There are genuine concerns. In fact, I can tell you, Deepti, that over the last 24 to 48 hours, there is a very clear case emerging of exodus of Afghans around the world, including to India. Massive number of applications, requests coming in where the Afghans want to migrate, or those Afghans who are not supportive of the idea of their society going to Taliban or the Taliban way or Taliban way of life. They want to move out. And I can give you a breaking news, Deepti. It is coming through Al Arabiya news platform, which is a very known news platform from Saudi Arabia. It says that the Afghan president Ashraf Ghani is going to relinquish power and an interim government led by Taliban is being formed. This is a direct fallout of the talks that are taking place inside the presidential palace in Kabul as the Taliban have entered the Afghan capital in the morning. And because they know that Doha talks, the condition, a precondition for the Doha talks, latest round of Doha talks, and the deal was that there should not be any violence, and that every global power, including the Americans, including the Russians, including the European Union, everyone has underscored the fact that there should be no violence happening if any government needs to be recognized. So I think that tactical adjustment being seen. But then breaking news coming in, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani is going to resign and quit being president of Afghanistan once these talks at the presidential palace come to a conclusion and an interim government takes over.
Let's see if we can break that Ashraf Ghani is going to be relinquishing his power. That is what Abhishek is breaking for us. Abhishek, why don't you read that tweet once more? What are we now learning?
Well, exactly. So the talks that are taking place inside the Kabul palace, presidential palace, Deepti, an interim government will take over led by the Taliban, some elements of the present Afghan government being incorporated who are perhaps not very inimical to Taliban, and we will see a new government taking over, essentially Taliban coming to power in Afghanistan. Remember the manner in which the meltdown has happened, Deepti, over the last 48 hours, the kind of abject surrender by the American security forces and the Afghan National Army. It is unbelievable. It's almost like all these people who were part
End of day's prophet
American
says opium harvest must be over. Perhaps
have lost their will to really fight and completely surrendered to the Taliban. Whether there were people who indulged in internal sabotage, all that would be a matter of analysis. But then this breaking news coming in that the talks are moving in the direction where Ashraf Ghani would be resigning as president, making way for a Taliban-led government in Kabul, with some elements of the present government getting incorporated. Deepti.
Deepti. Come on.
The embarrassment to the Americans would be so great that they would hold the line.
Abhishek, there is breaking that big story for us, and he does say,
that,
something I think that was being spoken of for long. When will Ashraf Ghani quit?
So he's either was being economical with the truth, or he was
Oh,
being
Biden,
utterly
you'd think.
naive. And this is a man who has been vice president for 8 years. So naivety, and he's a foreign policy expert, naivety is the second of the choices.
Okay, Tim, always great to get your thoughts, and we'll be speaking to you again, I'm sure, throughout coming days. Thank you very much indeed, Tim Marshall there. Well, let's just remind you then of this morning's key events, and Taliban fighters, as we've been saying, have arrived.
Could use a link,
Afghan
Doctor.
Capital, Kabul. The Taliban says it's now in talks with Afghanistan's government to attempt to negotiate a peaceful surrender of the city. A Taliban spokesman says its fighters have been ordered
we'll take
to
new
refrain
members.
from violence and to allow
We'll take new members.
safe passage
Horrendous
to
if
anyone
people are trying to get
who
in.
chooses to leave. And we know plenty of people are trying to get out, so there's a real urgency now to that situation. Gunfire and explosions have been heard in the city as those diplomatic staff race to leave. These live pictures show the US Embassy just in the distance there. Helicopters have been seen flying in and flying out, those huge Chinooks ferrying officials to the main airport. US officials say core team members are now working from there, from the airport. And the Taliban have made rapid advances right across Afghanistan since coalition troops pulled out last month. The militants now control all of the country's major cities.
Trying to go through all the reports that are coming in through agencies, wires, international platforms. I can't see that, but then that would be a natural corollary because remember, Mullah.
US forces and international forces who died, not to mention the Afghan forces who have died in the tens of thousands alongside them over the last 20 years, all to keep the Taliban out of power, only now to see them knocking on the doors of Kabul.
Very dramatic moments indeed. Charlotte, thanks so much for staying atop of things for us. I'm sure we'll come back to you as things will no doubt continue to develop quickly there. That was Charlotte Bellis live from Kabul.
Kiribati.
Are leaving, and the Afghan government has not proved itself or proven itself up to the mark in terms of holding on and filling that vacuum. And the Taliban, because they wield the gun, have scared the masses into surrender, even if they have not used. In fact, they have used violence. Remember when in Kandahar they captured Spin Boldak and some other towns a while back. They killed and eliminated a very noted stand-up comedian, sending across a clear message that if people do not fall in line,
Russia does not intend to evacuate its embassy staff in Kabul.
Then they are going to face the gun. So I think Mullah Baradar effectively is the head of Taliban, the de facto head, Akhundzad being the spiritual head. So obviously, in any government that is led by the Taliban, Mullah Baradar is going to be the chief of that.
And what will be the legitimacy of such a government, Abhishek? I think that's a key question. But we're heading into a quick break right now with these images that you see on your screens of local residents right now outside banks. You know, there is no money. The story is also going to be about what is it that they would be facing. But the top story continues to be of this abject surrender now that has happened.
Abject surrender, based Indian TV, folks.
Taliban. They say that this is going to be a peaceful transition of power. A deal already has been worked out. We are back on the other side with lots more.
Yeah. Contributing violence to this, you know, to what we're trying to do. We're not going to get there through diplomatic and other means. We have to protect people who are trying to leave, and we have to leave in an orderly fashion. And, you know, I hope that the Defence Secretary and others feel that they're empowered to do that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the Defence Secretary, because he's written in one of the newspapers today about these plans that were mulled over to perhaps have some sort of NATO alliance in Afghanistan without the US, of which the UK could potentially have been part of, to try and maintain stability and maintain some sort of peace. Do you think that idea was for the birds all along?
No, not at all. I mean, Turkey have stayed there. And, you know, there were about 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. It was a low-risk commitment as we were maintaining it, you know, in the early part of this year. And those troops were specialists in the areas of the Afghan army you need to work on, enablers, terminal controllers, bomb disposal experts, a special forces capability. Those are the things that, you know, the backbone to any military effort. And we could maintain that with very few people and very few costs. And, very small.
Nicola Karim of BBC South Asia Bureau Chief, hashtag India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, says, every woman and girl in Afghanistan is now in real and imminent danger. Is the world going to stand from the sidelines and watch? I say send in the rad femmes. They'll go and save those women. What do you say, lads? Send in the rad femmes. Nicola, get your gun. Get your gun and go in and start fighting. Start fighting for your freedoms.
And my heart goes out to people of Afghanistan. I've been on the phone this morning to someone I'm trying to get home, you know, and he's just really fighting for his sisters. You know, they're already using, you know, sex as a way to exploit the population. It's appalling what's going on.
Those poor kids, man.
Yeah, you know, it's a very, very difficult time. I think all, you know, UK ministers and the Prime Minister will be very careful about underplaying the impacts this will have. Okay, in Afghanistan, but also on the service community and veterans in this country. I think they should be very careful before underplaying.
Oh, we're going to get some bombings.
And when you hear a spokesperson
we've got
for
B-52s coming in,
that the transition will happen peacefully, and that anyone who worked for the security forces or work for the Afghan government will be treated fairly and will not be harmed, and that the people of Kabul have nothing to fear and shouldn't try and escape. Well, is that all rubbish, or is there a potential that we're seeing a different sort of Taliban from the one of 20 years ago?
I mean, how naive do we want to be? You know, you've seen, you know, some of the 333 guys, one of the counter-narcotics forces surrendered last week. 20 of them came out the compound, the commandos, and they were mowed down by the Taliban. You know, I mean, we pretend that you know, you know, we should take them seriously, but they're a barbaric force, and they will be exploited by people like Russia and China, and the geopolitical ramifications of this. We will be dealing with the consequences of this for years and
welcome
years
the Belt and Road, folks. Welcome to the Belt and Road Initiative.
It's truly devastating for lots of people.
Okay, Johnny Mercer, we appreciate your time. Great to get your thoughts and analysis, and we can tell just by looking at your face how despondent you are about these scenes coming out of Kabul. Thank you very much indeed. Let's bring in Foreign Affairs expert Tim Marshall once again. Tim, you've written books on the very subject, but tell us about Afghanistan's neighbours, the strategic importance of Afghanistan, and what role those neighbouring countries will play in coming days and coming months.
Everybody from Alexander the Great has seen it as a swing state, as in that the gate goes both ways. You know, the Russians, Brits, everybody has been there and gone away. And the Americans and us again are the latest. One of the key factors today is the fall of Jalalabad. It's in the east of the country, and there's a line, Jalalabad to through the Kabul Pass and into Pakistan. And from Pakistan, you're going straight into the Pashtun-dominated areas. So you've now got a link, a clear link between the Taliban in Afghanistan and the Taliban in Pakistan. And let's be honest, there are elements within the Pakistan government who have always supported the Taliban. So that's a huge strategic strengthening of them. If we look further afield, I'm very interested in what the Chinese are going to do now. Last month, about 3 weeks ago, there was this photo emerged out of China of a very senior Taliban official standing next to a very senior foreign ministry official. And they'd clearly been talking. What are they talking about? When you look at a map of Afghanistan, there's a little finger that pushes up out of the map, up into China. And it pushes straight in to the Chinese province of Xinjiang. Now, that's where the Uyghurs live, the Muslim Uyghurs. And as you know, the Chinese have incarcerated hundreds of thousands of them. And there is growing Islamic militancy there because it's one of the only responses they can have to the oppression of the Chinese government. So the Chinese are very alarmed that the Taliban who've taken that finger of the map can export their ideology into China itself. So I think China will do a deal with the Taliban. China might even be one of the few governments that will recognize them. So there's that to take into account. When Mazar-e-Sharif fell yesterday,
can anyone give me a link for those US Air Force bombs?
They're now, I think, trapped against the border of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, which neighbor each other, the Russians are now moving extra troops there because they are very frightened that the Taliban will export their violence up through what are called the stands.
Kilo Sierra Alpha says...
and closer to their home.
The US Embassy won't be able to fly pride flags in Kabul anymore. Oh, no, they won't. Oh, no, they won't. A restoration of sanity on planet Earth.
That to take into account. Probably two more countries. One, India. This is a nightmare for India because they've always been against Taliban government in Afghanistan because they know that the stronger the Taliban are in Afghanistan, then the stronger they are in Pakistan, their traditional enemy. The last one is Iran. Iran will seek to influence the Shia areas of Afghanistan if they can. But also Iran and Pakistan are now going to have a huge influx, probably, of refugees. And some of those refugees are not going to stop in those countries. They're going to keep coming.
Tim, don't go anywhere. I just want to break a little bit of news from Westminster. Downing Street sources are telling Sky News that Parliament is to be recalled next week. Parliament, of course, on its summer recess at the moment. The Prime Minister held that Cobra meeting on Friday to discuss the ongoing situation in Afghanistan, particularly in regard to those UK personnel there and trying to get them out. Well, we have just heard in the last few moments, perhaps unsurprisingly, that Downing Street sources are telling Sky News Parliament is to be recalled next week. Tim, what do you make of that?
Well, yeah, what are they going to talk about? Well, they're going to talk about what to do next because this is over. So assuming that the Brits can get most of their people out within 48 hours, I'm fascinated by your pictures here because that is, I mean, it's a blank screen at the moment, but that is intense air activity. That is just non-stop shuttling. As I said, it's not just the British and the Americans, there's many other countries involved in this. What do they have to talk about then? Well,
what about the 3,000 troops, Harold? They're just there to watch, I guess.
Public opinion, I think, may well have supported the idea of getting out. Certainly was in the United States, but I don't think our governments have explained the enormity of a defeat to the public. So they'll have to discuss numbers, basically. Have we got everybody out? Of the people that we've got out, there's only a few dozen of them are going to be embassy staff. Now, the rest of them are going to be the translators, very brave guys who risked everything to work with the British military, especially down south and also in the capital. Their families. There are British passport holders who have every right to come as far as they want. And then what about refugees that make it out and actually make it to the UK? What is going to be the policy towards them? Will it be as tough as the current measures? Will there be special dispensation for refugees from Afghanistan as opposed to from other countries? You know, so there's only the aftermath to talk about. This is finished and will play out, and let's just hope, as we were discussing earlier, that it plays out.
Thank you, good doggy.
Firstly, between the Afghan government and the Taliban.
Pride in Kabul. Pride in Kabul.
And then the Taliban talk to the foreign forces and hopefully say, on your way, and close the door behind you.
Well, it's an interesting point you make there, because, as you say, those helicopters shuttling backwards and forwards from locations in Kabul, including the embassy, to the airport. What sort of troops are involved in this? Presumably troops that can put up a very good firefight if they need to.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, they will have air cover. There are some Black Hawk helicopters still there. Secondly, the Americans are bringing in 5,000 troops, and 1,000 of them are the 82nd Airborne, which is one of their crack divisions. The Brits, I think it's 500 to 600 troops, and mostly parachute regiments.
This 82nd Airborne.
In the 16th Air Assault Brigade. Again,
isn't that Mike Milley? Woke Mike Milley's brigade?
The higher-end combat troops of the British military. And they do have the firepower, they have the training, they'll have the air cover, which is crucial, drones, Black Hawks, etc. They've got night vision goggles. I mean, they've got a lot of kit that the Taliban either haven't got or would struggle to use. The other thing, and it's not getting mentioned very much, the Turks volunteered 2 or 3 months ago to guard the airport. As I said, it's about 3 miles down the road from your picture. And they thought they were going to be staying on. They thought Kabul would hold and they would bear responsibility for the airport for the next few years. And there's 500 Turkish troops, which I imagine are some of their better troops as well. So they will be holding the perimeter. Now, all of this, hopefully, is not going to be required other than a peaceful evacuation. If it comes to contact between the Taliban and the forces, it'll get extremely messy. And the other danger, which they're going to be really, really looking out for, is IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and suicide bombers, which the Taliban have been doing a lot of.
Allahu Akbar!
You can get 50, 60, probably more people in that, and a lot of kit. And we are seeing them constantly. So, you know, each time you see one, you're seeing a minimum, I would assume, of another 50 people getting to the airport, back, another 50 people back. We're talking about thousands of people, but so this is going to take the rest of the day and tomorrow.
And when do you think we'll see a situation where the Taliban can say they now have full control of Kabul? Just very briefly, if you could, Tim.
If it's peaceful, why not by the end of tomorrow? If it's not, days.
By the end of tomorrow. Incredible. All right. Tim Marshall, Foreign Affairs expert. Always good to get your analysis on this developing story in Afghanistan. We'll speak to you again shortly. Thank you very much indeed, Tim Marshall there. Well, coming up in a couple of minutes' time, all the very latest from Afghanistan, where Taliban fighters have now entered the outskirts of the capital, Kabul, and have said that they are waiting
and Abhishek are both with us. And I just want to tell my director that I really can't see much of it on air right now because of a technical glitch. But as soon as we have a guest from Kabul who's ready, we will go to our guest right now. Okay, I think he's ready with us. So we can actually go to Nigel Walker, who's a communications advisor of the Norwegian Afghanistan Committee, and he is ready to be evacuated. Nigel, first up, thank you so much for speaking to us on Republic. Why don't you tell me where you are and how is it right now? How are all of you holding up? What are you learning about the evacuation, Nigel?
From what I'm experiencing right now, there's actually been an increase of helicopter traffic. It's hard to know where they're coming from or going to. Once the American forces arrived yesterday and the day before, the helicopters were going to the embassy and bringing the American embassy staff to the airport, to the main airport.
Carl says, please support the good doc.
There's also been reports of
support the good doctor.
Some fighting
Using
in
up his
the
silicon.
eastern part of Kabul, but I can't
Making all
confirm
carbon
that.
dioxide.
And Nigel, you know, there are a lot of reports right now coming in, but you are reporting live from Kabul right now. You know, I think we're the only channel right at this point from Kabul, courtesy of you right now, as we are looking at what's happening. What is it that you're hearing? What are the kind of reports that have reached you so far?
So the most recent report we've had is that there are senior members
the presidential palace. Waiting at the gates of the capital, a Taliban spokesman tells Al Jazeera its fighters are not attacking Kabul and offers an amnesty to those who served in the government or the military. But worries mount among those who have fled to the capital to escape the fighting in other parts of the country. In other news this hour, more than 300 people killed after a large earthquake hits west of the Haitian capital.
Wait there.
Okay, and you know, Nigel, there are also a lot of reports coming in of choppers flying. You know, is that the sound that you have also heard? Is that what you have seen? What about the locals? What is it that you have seen around you or heard around you?
Russia-Afghanistan War 2.0.
Yes, there's a lot of that. I'm not sure if you can
Maybe.
pick that up on our microphone, but since we've been on air, there's probably been 3 helicopters. What happened this morning was very interesting in that our organization was trying to get our COVID test to fly. One of the big issues right now of trying to get on a plane is you can't get on a plane without a COVID test. So we tried to go across town to get our test. And during that time, there was gunfire reported in the Sharanau area, which was very close to our office and the clinic. And then it was reported that there were issues with police and potentially there was an attempted bank robbery. Around about that time, the traffic in Kabul was completely deadlocked. And there were people streaming away from that particular area of town. Now, however, things have calmed down quite a bit. I haven't been back to that area, but I've had friends who were also trying to get their tests, and that they've also reported that it's become a lot calmer.
You know, Nigel, I think this is the first
real
personal
release.
account that we are able to put out for our viewers on Republic, and I must thank you for taking up the time for us. You just spoke of a bank robbery now that you possibly did see. Now, there are also reports saying that a lot of long queues outside these banks and ATM machines are also being seen. Did you hear about them? What have you heard about this facet?
Yes, Grant Mitchell says, I'm starting to worry about my smack supply.
I did witness a very long line outside of an ATM in that same area, Sharanau area of Kabul, and very long line outside an ATM, and it was becoming quite heated. Yesterday, we heard that the banks had stopped issuing any kind of currency. I think that has improved today, though.
Yeah, there is official
Okay,
surrender.
you say that possibly could have improved. I was also reading reports that did tell us that a lot of locals have moved in, to parks and to open places.
You've woke up
Is that
to the
also
fall
what
of
you've
Kabul,
seen or
sir.
heard, Nigel?
Yes, since for the last week, there have been thousands of people streaming in from surrounding provinces, and there are two parks that have, or two big parks that have received them. However, we've also heard that because there are services being provided at some of those parks, local people who need services have also shown up to those areas. Our organization was involved in providing some food and I think some blanket protections. And of course, we told our staff, we told our female staff that they wouldn't be able to go down there because it was becoming quite frantic. There's a lot of desperate people here.
You see a lot.
They are still going well. There has been some conversation that Mullah Barada, who
Well,
was the political head for the Taliban,
Nigel, this is Abhishek Kapoor from the studios here in Noida near Delhi. We want to understand what kind of humanitarian crisis is really going to pan out if Taliban really takes over Kabul.
Oh, Cobra was local on the ground in Kazakhstan.
Yes, Nigel. Yes, Mr. Walker, this is for you. Since you are there on the ground, what kind of humanitarian crisis you see panning out, about given the general understanding we have of Taliban vis-a-vis their conduct towards women, or about their conduct towards...
Come on, Rad Fems, now's your time. Now's your time.
Of Americans in
Go
Afghanistan
sign up.
For the last 2
Go
decades,
sign up.
or for that matter, even the civilian employees of the Afghan government.
I think there are elements within the group, the Taliban, that
I think that's the war, Bernays, yes.
Trying to do the right thing, but I also think there are elements that we don't know how they're going to react. We don't know.
Live feed says Boris Johnson's message to the Taliban: build back better, perhaps in a more feminine way. Is that what he said? Those were his words, right? Build back better in a more gender neutral, more feminine way. It's fine, old Boris.
Right. Are you suggesting that the situation might not be that bad and that the Taliban might have made some kind of tactical adjustment with their own true self or their second nature in terms of using the gun and indulging in violence?
I'd like to think so.
That's it, Boris. You tell them. Build back better, more gender neutral, more feminine. More feminine.
Yes, I would say that we've had reports that they
My
have
Sky
reached
newsfeed
out
is 10 minutes
to different
behind.
organizations and encouraged those organizations to keep working.
But what?
And for calm, some explosions and gunfire have been heard, we understand. But is it relatively peaceful right now, Stuart?
I think it's very relative, that, Jonathan. We know that there's been skirmishes, particularly in the north of the city, I am told, by people who tried to resist, but the Taliban are not to be put off, of course, and any resistance is dealt with by them quite quickly. There are reports of some firefight at or near to the airport, but that's completely unconfirmed. Some have said that British soldiers who are there, probably providing the initial cover for that area, may have been involved, but we've not had anything official from that. But we have seen from that direction smoke rising in the air. There have been gunshots.
Fighters like this man have conquered Kabul. There's a lot about the Afghan army and US strategy. Seems US trained Afghanistan army to surrender. Nice army issue. M16 there.
Maybe a kilometre away from me, that direction, are talks between the current Afghan government and the Taliban about a transition of power. They're all talking about it being peaceful and that they want to just actually make sure that there is calm in the city, and that all people who want to leave, and of course that doesn't just mean foreigners, that could mean Afghans as well, are allowed to leave Kabul. We know, for example, interestingly, that loads of displaced people who have been here have already been leaving the parks that they've been staying in because they prefer to go back to their homes than stay in Kabul, but such is the level of tension here. Of course, as you were saying, there's the ferrying
Taliban won't push the jab.
embassy staff, both British and American, to the airport, and as they try to process them and put them on planes. My understanding...
DJ says, LGBTQ, here's your war you've been craving. Take Afghanistan back. Free your oppressed women. Strategize and operate from start to finish. All you girlfriend, the gays on rooftops are depending on you.
At the moment also is that commercial airlines potential gunfire at the airport, and they are circling overhead, but that doesn't seem to me to mean that they aren't going to land and continue the relief effort. And this lift is being done by the military, but it's also very dependent at the moment on commercial airlines taking people out, and they're hoping, I mean, it's part of the planning, is that they would be involved in this. And of course, what's interesting about
they push a different jab, that's funny.
It was all meant to be really up and running by Tuesday, probably really going by Thursday. Well, it's got to be done right away now. We know that British nationals who have registered are being contacted by the Foreign Office and being offered seats on flights. But one statistic I've been told is that there's about 3,000 people need to go, but only about 450 had actually registered.
Bernie says will be a show at the
to be
soccer
put on the list.
ground.
So that will no doubt change. We're sort of pretty much stuck downtown in our hotel because the roads out were absolutely chock-a-block. They're calmer around here now, but we're told that there are a lot of Taliban roaming around, and for the time being, it's better to stay where we are, which means I haven't been able to get to the airport and I haven't been able to see what's going on there. But we understand that this airlift is underway. As I say, we do now know, of course, that the British and American military are involved. They're up in the air, constantly flying above us, presumably looking for targets. Perhaps not target, but looking for movement of Taliban from outside. If their leadership are involved in those talks, maybe it's possible that they will agree that anyone...
Do I still talk to Brendan O'Connell? Yeah, I was speaking to him this weekend.
The question is, will they set a deadline? And has that deadline already passed? None of these things we know. Very, very late last night, I had one of our local producers...
Do I think this has been done on purpose?
Very, very late at night,
yeah.
saying that he understood that orders had been given from the Taliban leadership on the ground for their fighters to move into the city. Nothing seemed to have happened by the morning, but by mid-morning, our time, it was clear that they were moving. There was an announcement that they were coming in from 4 sides of Kabul. And then obviously we started seeing pictures, and it was quite clear that they are in town. We're, as I say, if you like, right at the heart of it, not the green zone, but the government heart of the city. And I've no doubt they will be here. This hotel plays host to dignitaries and major international events.
You fuck them, me old matey.
In the past, but it is also the Qatar embassy, and many people are hoping that given that they've played such a role in the brokering of any type of talks, may hold some sway. I would say, however, how much sway those representatives...
Can I leave my streams on Twitch?
On the ground,
I have a Twitch channel.
But
I don't know if they stay up there or not.
The leadership is actually here, not doing it by phone, not doing it remotely, not doing it in Qatar, but actually here. And that could be significant as well. Maybe, as I say, you could see perhaps an agreement that there's an absolute ceasefire and everyone follows.
We have a clip of the British contingent on their way to Kabul.
You know, the 20-year Afghan operation has, I suppose there's no other way of putting it, failed. with the troop withdrawals, the announcement of the dates, the fact that those withdrawals took place just emboldened the Taliban, and they have just cut a swathe through the country, fighting in the early stages, but actually by the end, pretty much just walking into towns and governors handing over their offices, and the army giving up weapons and leaving. And so once they got to Kabul, although there's always been this expectation that it might or would be a fight, again, they seem to have just been able to walk in. One of the reasons being that the checkpoints are here. They have a thing called the Ring of Steel, which they were very proud of, which is known as the city. Those are all checkpoints.
Rainbows. Ring of rainbows.
Have just disappeared, and the roads are a complete
it's not taking me to
the
the
police had disappeared as well. So
what flight should I be
now,
looking
if you
for?
like, whatever is left of the Afghan military here, and the British and American forces and other foreign nations who are sending military to assist in the removal of their foreign nationals and Afghan staff. Apart from them, it seems to me that basically if you're at the airport, you're with the old coalition, and if you're outside, you're with the Taliban.
Stuart, while you're talking, a Taliban official has been speaking, made a number of points actually, which would be good to get your assessment of. To start with, he said that Kabul hospitals, the emergency supplies will not be stopped, so hospitals and their supplies will carry on as normal. And also, this spokesperson has said that the airport is being allowed to function. So the airport continues to function, and foreigners in Kabul should leave if they wish or in coming days, but they should register their presence with Taliban administrators.
Looks
so
good for me,
foreigners
dude.
being told that if they want to go, they will be allowed to go, that the airport will remain open, but foreigners should register with Taliban administrators. This is interesting as well, Stuart. Afghan forces members are allowed to head home,
shout out to
says
Paul
this
for
official.
$10 donation.
And
Thank you
also
very
no
much.
Taliban
You can have
fighters
a
allowed to
Bimbo
conduct
Bailey.
Celebratory gunfire right now, something that we often see, don't we, in that part of the world. But clearly, with everyone on edge, that is probably a sensible precaution. So perhaps we can start then with that announcement that foreigners are allowed to go if they want, and the airport will remain available to them.
Well, that's a bit high on the wish, I suppose, for those who want or need to leave, and certainly it would be for the
you want the fall of Saigon?
after this, and for the military.
Virgil, wait
who
1
will be
second. I
overseeing,
can just wait.
this,
Wait there, sir. There you go. There you go. Fall of Saigon.
Interesting, no
Kabul.
mention there
Fall
of
of Saigon.
death.
Kabul.
Of course, you are dependent
you
to
are.
a degree on the airlines being able to land. But if everyone in the tower is saying that things are calm, then they could continue if those airlines are prepared to do so. I'd say it is also important that they're saying to the military here that you can go home. Now, they've done that elsewhere, and that worked very successfully. I mean, obviously, they hand over all their weapons and everything they've got, but there's no retribution against them for now. We've spoken to a few soldiers who are saying that it is just for now at the moment. And then for the foreigners who want to leave and having to register with the Taliban, I mean, I suppose in a normal administration, you wouldn't consider that particularly strange. It just depends because, of course, it's the Taliban, and as you know, with media organisations, with the NGOs, with the embassy staff, there's men and women, and we're all in same hotels and often on the same floors, and that could be an issue. And nobody's going to want people being split apart in teams, so that could be an issue. And I suppose really, it's crucially is whether they are going to allow this what is a complex operation. Even without everything going so quickly wrong, it would be a complicated operation. For example, the RAF now are pretty much expected to be doing most of the lifting, and they're bringing in assets from all around the world. This is an absolute priority for them now. And going back to the hospitals, I suppose this is, the Taliban saying, trying to
Which
make
chair did I get? It's called a Contessa.
I mean, any ordinary organisation, any type of potential government.
It's a little. It's meant for Japanese behind, not big Western behind. So
coming down the road behind me. In fact, it is I think it's a procession of of the Taliban.
Back that, Bob! All over again.
They're coming down the street just next to us. They're in their shalwar kameez. They're led by a white flag, and they're chanting as they go down. I don't think from our position we can't show you that, Jonathan. We're about 2 or 3 stories, 4 stories up, but there they are, right here. Hopefully,
Allahu Akbar!
I can't see people with weapons at all. Doesn't mean they're not, but they're not openly carrying guns as far as I can tell, and they are marching and chanting. So you couldn't ask for a better illustration of the fact that the Taliban aren't just in Kabul, but they're actually right in the centre of it. They've just walked past the presidential palace, which is there. So interesting times. We're not. Are they just parading around? Are these Taliban fighters that have come in from other areas? Again, we don't know that. It could be that they're actual Taliban supporters who just lived here. So we just don't know. I think the power has just gone on this. So,
this is great.
That's remarkable, Stuart. The fact that the Taliban now, whether they are
Next
Taliban
is
fighters
Stuart's
or
head.
the Taliban supporters and sympathisers, are now in the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul. Reports this morning that they had surrounded the city, that they were on the outskirts, that they were beginning to make moves to take Kabul. As our chief correspondent Stuart Ramsey was saying,
first concern
he
is that
understands,
we
he's seen with his own eyes.
Our Indians. We should ensure the safety of our Indians. And post formation of new so-called government, what should be our strategy? You see, I fail to understand that Afghanistan has 3.25 lakhs approximately army, and it has just been defeated. And I don't think very good fight has been offered by a very well-trained army. Our army does not surrender like this. Is it a fact that a very important segment of Afghanis, they support Taliban? Another important aspect, what will be the attitude of Taliban new government and Taliban forces with regard to women and girls? We know when Taliban was approaching, they were on the outskirts of Kabul, the way they have treated the women folk and the girls. We know all that, forced marriages and all that. If Taliban is trying to show a good face, I think it is a temporary measure. They will wait and watch policy. They will consolidate, win over important segments in important pockets of Afghanistan territory. And the moment they know that they are in absolute control of things, then they will start showing their true color, which will be very, very ruthless type of behavior. So these are the concerns which are important. Another angle is Haqqani network. Haqqani network, we know that it enjoys the confidence of Pakistan army. So if Haqqani's network play an important role with the support of Pakistani army, then what will be the scenario? At present, it is very difficult to forecast things, what will be the turn of events, but an unstable Afghanistan is not in our interest. An unstable Afghanistan
Help the good
will
doc with
create
streaming costs, folks.
our problems for access to Central Asia, our trade, commerce, and business, and that is a great concern. And if Pakistan is able to control Taliban, then another front geographically, and that means from 2.5 front war scenario, it may be 3 front war scenario or 3.5 front war scenario. So to that extent, we'll have to make amends in our operational planning, and troops to ground density will have to be adjusted. Maybe massive purchases of equipment will have to be done to ensure that the safety and
Cobra says, when you've been in the shit, that is all you know. I was in this war and I'm happy to see the stronger men win.
Allahu Akbar!
But it is my personal perception, personal appreciation at this stage that things are not good, and only 2 things strike my mind. Has America acted in a very, very irresponsible manner, or has lost the track, or is it a very well-crafted move? Because I personally feel America does have a think tank which takes into account every factor before taking a decision. So if they have factored in all the variables, is it a fact that it is a very clever move? Only time will say, because the course of events will dictate whether America was smart or America has not been very intelligent in tackling Afghanistan issue. So these are the issues which need to be...
Sinha Saab, that's a good point. And, I think that's going to be a longer debate about the role of the US, because not just the strategy, was there a strategy at all? Or, the focus was just on exit? I think these are more images that Republic has been able to get to you over the last few days, building up from different areas. Right now, this is Jalalabad, where again, you've seen, mass exodus of people right now. We are hearing a lot of rush right now also at the airport. Presidential Palace is where right now these transfer of power talks, whatever you call them right now, are underway. Ashraf Ghani is all set to resign. Mullah Baradar is going to be the next president, is what we are learning as we head into a quick break right now, but do not go anywhere. On the other side of this quick break, we keep our focus on what's happening at the Presidential Palace. What really will these talks amount?
Other operations around the world in order to put them into what is now the priority. And what was originally going to be evacuation starting on Thursday of this coming week, well, again, that's out the window. They'll get people out ASAP. And there had been a hope that most people could leave commercial means. Well, the airport is still open, but one wonders for how much longer. I was just taking a look before I came on.
Oops.
Asking you to destroy these evidence.
Circling around, I don't know why, but perhaps waiting for permission to land on the tarmac when it is secure enough. And I can only think that commercial airliners, sooner rather than later, will make a decision that it just is not secure enough and not worth going into the airport. And if that is the case, then the onus will fall on the RAF and others to extract Britain's, and of course, very importantly, and we mustn't forget this, in the reporting of it, those Afghans who have been working for the best part of 2 decades now alongside British forces, British diplomats and others in the country in order to aid that mission that started after 9/11 and is coming to, really frankly, such a humiliating end now. And one sort of word as well, those who will be leaving, those Britons will be leaving.
Shameless.
We are talking, we're not obviously, and again, I know this sounds like stating the bleeding obvious, but we're not talking about tourists leaving the country. We're talking about diplomats, aid workers, people involved in the reconstruction of Afghanistan. So they too, in their own small way, will be of a huge loss to the country.
Okay, for now, Alistair, thank you very much indeed.
The Taliban are now
to Kabul.
Shut at you. Taliban now in possession of more Black Hawk helicopters than 166 other nations around the globe. Yeah, generator. There we go. Taliban have operationalized at least 2 helicopters captured in Herat. Taliban Air Force up and running. Don't know for how long with American aircraft flying around. Yeah, I
wasn't convinced they were fighters because he didn't see any weaponry, but certainly supporters, sympathisers, and there was no resistance whatsoever.
Probably the latter. I mean, obviously, Stuart's on the ground and in the position to make a much better call on it.
This guy will be legging it from Kabul.
They could be supporters. That rang more true because
is this in This must be France,
the police,
right?
as he reported, have melted away, which is why there's one of the reasons there's traffic chaos, and there is no point in fighting anymore. So why would anybody risk their life to defend the presidential palace or whatever? even so, though, it's hard to see that the sort of like spearhead, the tip of the spear of the Taliban advance would walk into that without their weapons. So they're probably supporters. But that in itself tells you an awful lot.
Thank you, Albert, for the update there. That
it's over. It tells you that there are...
the picture of the B-52 was over United Arab Emirates. Direction matches it flying towards Afghanistan. It might be from the 7th of August. Thank you.
Significant elements of the population who will welcome them, who are always on the inside. They were on the inside of the Afghan army. And I was looking at the pictures of Jalalabad that you showed a few minutes ago as the Taliban convoys were driving through. Jalalabad is in the Pashtun areas. It's a very significant town. It connects up to the Khyber Pass and into Pakistan. But look at the guys cheering and waving. Now, some of them genuinely will support the Taliban. Others, you really need to get on side once the government changes. These are the new powers. You want to welcome them. There's no point in opposing them anymore. So it's not that all the, it's not that everybody there, is a big fan of them. It's just, right, here comes the new boss, same as the old boss. I'm on your side now.
Tell me about Bagram Air Base, Tim. It has huge significance, of course. The Taliban saying that that's been surrendered to them, currently housing prisoners.
Yes, not for long. There's already been several, I was going to call them jailbreaks. They're not. The Taliban have already opened many of the prisons, and thousands of people are flooding out of them, and many of them, of course, will be Taliban prisoners. So that's over, and that's going to happen in Bagram. But Bagram was where the airbase is, and it was where the firepower that held them at bay was. Some of it is still there. And when the Americans pulled out, they took some of the helicopters and planes with them, but they have left an awful lot of kit behind for the Afghan army. That's now the Taliban army's equipment. It'll be Humvees, the big armored vehicles. There will be some of the state-of-the-art weaponry there. There'll be longer-range missiles. And there may be even 1 or 2 helicopters there. Now, the Taliban don't have pilots, really, but they will have soon. Again, they can co-opt them. There's a Chinook. It could be a Sea Knight. I was told that the Americans do have 1 or 2 Sea Knights. They look a bit like Chinook. I think that's a Chinook. They hold, I think it's 55 seats, certainly about 50 seats, or about 10 tons of kit you can put in there. And through the morning, your pictures have been showing a constant shuttle. So every time you see one of those, it's on its way to the airport or coming back. If it's on its way to the airport, it'll have at least 50 people on it. If it's just the kit they're getting out, it'll have up to 10 tons of equipment. And another thing, there's a Black Hawk just going down below that, probably a government building. The other thing that will be happening in the embassy right now is they will be destroying the computers. They will be, if they still have hard disks, literally smashing the computers and getting the hard disks out. They will be, the British Embassy, burning paperwork. They will be getting together what they can carry out with them and what they have to leave behind. They'll either be smashing or burning. It's going to be, I wouldn't say chaotic in there, but it'll be very fraught, and those will be the pictures we'll probably never see.
OK, Tim, thank you for the moment. Don't stray too far. I'm sure we'll speak to you again shortly. But I just want to bring in foreign policy expert, Professor Scott Lucas, to get his thoughts. Good to have you on Sky News, Scott. Thanks very much for taking the time to help us with this developing story by bringing your analysis to the situation. I just want to update everyone on what the Afghan acting Interior Minister
where will the next war kick off? Everywhere.
In the last few minutes. He says the security
everywhere already right now.
The city has been guaranteed. There will be no attack on the city. So that is
the says, where's Gidi Bakshi? We're waiting for Gidi Bakshi.
Minister
Beijing Gidi Bakshi.
That it would appear the plan is for no bloodshed in Kabul. What do you make of that?
That complements reports from multiple sources over the last hour that, in fact, Taliban delegation had been talking to what is now a transitional government. President Ghani is gone. He has been replaced. And that this discussion is for the Taliban to take over the capital. It also complements reports from U.S. officials 48 hours ago that they were talking to the Taliban, if you come into Kabul, don't attack the embassies, don't attack foreign nationals. The open question at this point is, will the Taliban also agree to leave Kabul airport open so that that evacuation can proceed, I wouldn't say in an orderly fashion, but at least without any fear of confrontation? That's the one question.
I'll leave the visuals on back in a minute, folks.
Because in the last half an hour or so, a Taliban spokesperson has been quoted as saying that the airport will remain open and that any foreigners in Kabul are free to leave if they wish, but do need to register with Taliban administrators. Now, whether they're going to bother with doing that before they get to the airport remains to be seen, of course. But that, again, would be a positive development.
It would be a positive development, I think, for foreign nationals who are there, for a limited number of Afghans who have worked with foreign governments who are also going to be brought out. But of course, the caveat I have to add to you is the uncertainty is it a positive development for Afghans in Kabul and across the country? Because 20 years after the Taliban were pushed out of Kabul, they now are not only in Kabul, they control almost all of Afghanistan with their particular system, social, political, and religious system. So I understand the focus on foreigners today, I understand the focus on the evacuation, but that longer term question of what happens now if you are living in Afghanistan with the return of this group to power.
Of course, and our thoughts are with those who have fled the Taliban in the provincial towns. They've fled to Kabul hoping for safety, and of course now they will be trapped. What does this mean in terms of many Afghans who will be desperate to get out of Afghanistan? Are we going to see a mass migration, or will the Taliban just make sure that can't happen?
It's not just the Taliban who will make sure it doesn't happen. It'll be other powers that will ensure it doesn't happen. Keep a very close eye, for example, on Iran and Pakistan, the two most influential countries around Afghanistan. The Iranians have already said they are going to close their border. Turkey, which is just beyond Iran, has said it is closing its border in case any Afghans make it into Iran. So in contrast to some of the refugee flows that we've seen over the past decade, countries in the region are shutting the doors already. Afghans, their fate is really going to be in the hands of the Taliban for some time to come, I suspect.
Yeah, very interesting. And of course, there has been no resistance, or certainly very little resistance. We saw that footage from Jalalabad earlier today with the Taliban streaming in. And in fact, you can even see the roads lined with supporters, people standing, watching, even cheering as that happens. Are you surprised by that?
Well, no, because in a country which is diverse like Afghanistan, there will be some people who support the Taliban's program. We might not like it. It might not be what we are used to here, but some Afghans will accept it. There are other Afghans who will not accept it, but it's the Talibans who have the arms. They've got the power, so why resist them? And of course, if you come out openly against the Taliban, you do risk detention, you do risk worse and retribution. So I'm not surprised to see some people welcome the Taliban, with many others going to ground and just hoping there's not a knock at the door if they are considered to be, well, let's say, the opposition.
And for those people who may be thinking to themselves today, well, the Taliban of 2021 is very different to the Taliban of 20 years ago, are they misguided?
No, I think you can sort of analyze this in a couple of ways. I think you can say that the Taliban still pursue the same domestic program politically, socially, economically that they pursued 20 years ago. I think you can say that that is a fairly strict system, for example, in terms of segregation of gender, denial of women's rights, limits on education, especially for women. That is the system that they prefer. That hasn't changed. I think their messaging outside of Afghanistan may be different now, because 20 years ago, it wasn't just that the Americans pushed them out. It was local Afghan groups who pushed them out with foreign support. But that's because the Taliban had very little foreign support from other countries. Here's the big question to watch beyond what happens to Afghans. What type of links do the Taliban try to make, say, with, first of all, Iran and Pakistan, and then countries beyond? Think about China, for example, so that they build up a different type of economic and political position in the international system. Will other countries in return, like the US and Europe, say, the Taliban are so awful we can't deal with them? Or will they accept and it might happen. Well, no, this is the power in place, and the Taliban will be part of this international system. They will not be overthrown as they were 20 years ago.
Questions for coming days and coming months, of course. Foreign policy expert Professor Scott Lucas, really useful to get your take on this developing story. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
You're watching Sky News. These are the latest pictures from the Afghan capital, Kabul. That is the US embassy in the distance there. Helicopters flying backwards and forwards as there is a desperate rush to get US and UK nationals out of the country. The Afghan acting interior minister saying in the last few moments the security of the city has been guaranteed. There will be no attack on Kabul. All the latest on this breaking news in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. More now on this morning's big developing story, and Taliban fighters have arrived in the Afghan capital, Kabul. The militants say they're now in talks with Afghanistan's government to agree the city's surrender. An Afghan official has been quoted as saying that there will be a peaceful handover. The Taliban says its fighters have been ordered to refrain from violence and to allow safe passage to anyone who chooses to leave. While gunfire and explosions have been heard in the city as Western diplomatic staff race to get out, these live pictures show the US embassy. Helicopters have been seen flying in and out, ferrying officials to safety. Officials say core team members are now...
This will be a disastrous refugee crisis. What I still cannot understand is a 3 lakh strong Afghan National Army. How has it collapsed like a house of cards? more than meets the eye in this particular case.
Yesterday,
one government spokesman was trying to say that they are trying to avoid bloodshed, etc., etc., and possibly a deal has been worked out. This doesn't look like a deal. Kabul is not a place which should have fallen with this ridiculous ease. Some of their best units, their commando brigades were here. Why are they not putting up a fight? We'll have to wait for answers. And how is Pakistan got the right to overthrow a government, a legally elected government in Afghanistan, which the world has recognized, Pakistan has recognized? And yet, they are merrily overthrowing governments, making life hell for the people of Afghanistan. Their only fault is that a bizarre country like Pakistan is their neighbor. A bizarre country like Pakistan is their neighbor. They are saying the people are welcoming the Taliban. My foot. Look at the way the people of Afghanistan are fleeing. This is the worst humanitarian crisis. I don't think the United States has covered itself with glory. I think its image as a superpower is down in the mud. With the way that they have presided over such a collapse that to even get their embassy people out, they have to reinduct troops back. Why withdraw troops in the first place then? They were hoping that there would be a 6 to 8 months, time gap between their leaving and the Afghan government collapsing. But the way this has happened reminds me of what happened in 1996. There were a number of battles that we were anticipating that, we were looking forward to their outcome because we were quite sure that the other sides were evenly matched. Because the Taliban are no great soldiers. They can torture women, they can kill children, but they are not great fighters. They may be okay guerrilla fighters, okay at putting ID and hit and run raids. That's fine. They are not a regular army. So therefore, there is the last time that we found when the intelligence reports came through that the ISI and the Saudi Arabian Mukhabarat intelligence had won the other side over by putting money on the table. A standard practice in Afghanistan. You buy the other side over and a whole army collapses without a shot being fired. Don't forget the CIA had done that to the Republican Guards in Iraq. They had surrendered, they had melted away without a fight, hoping that they would be reinstated by the Americans. So I don't know if the Afghan forces have put up a similar disgraceful performance, have disgraced themselves by this kind of a thing. A 3 lakh strong force and the Taliban is 80,000 strong. You add 20,000 Pakistanis to it, unless more have come in. It still was a...
And we're looking at major provincial capitals takeover just happening within days. Within days, just a day before we were playing out what the then Afghan President Ashraf Ghani had to talk about, saying that he will not step down, he will continue to fight. And look at the situation which is panning out now. But to elaborate further, Abhishek, what Bakshi sir is pointing out, that the Biden administration increased the US deployment to Afghanistan to 5,000 even as Taliban continue to make advances. Biden saying that this will not pass, he will not allow to pass this war in Afghanistan to another US leader. Is this own ambition there of
Shout out good doggy for this one.
Looking at, as far as the anniversary of 9/11 is concerned, that the complete pullout will happen as far as the US troops is concerned. We'll talk more on that. This is a continuous live coverage that we are bringing out for our viewers. Also the updates that we are picking up from Kabul. Multiple persons also coming across requesting Bakshi sir and Abhishek to please continue to be with us. We head into a short break. Live coverage continues.
No, Gidi Bakshi. We want Gidi Bakshi back, please. Gidi Bakshi.
Well, Ashraf Ghani officially gives up on his feet as the president of Afghanistan, even as the talks with Taliban are currently underway.
Right across Afghanistan since coalition troops pulled out last month. The militants now control all of the country's major cities except Kabul, although it would appear that is just moments away. Well, it all comes as Downing Street sources say Parliament is to be recalled to address the situation in
I can't take credit, good doggy.
Earlier, I spoke to Conservative MP and former serviceman Johnny Mercer.
But yeah, bravo whoever made that meme.
A real sort of miscalculation, I think, by the UK and the US as to how quickly this was going to happen. Obviously, you know, Afghanistan is a very difficult place, and there's no predictability to this. But you know, the firmness with the statements from, you know, Biden, you've seen it on that side of the Atlantic, but you've also seen it here that the Afghan security forces wouldn't collapse. That, you know, people were worrying unnecessarily about this. You know, it's just it's humiliating to watch, and for those of us who are trying to get people out, you know, it's pretty hopeless at the moment.
You say that these scenes, these images coming out of Afghanistan are humiliating. It's a theme that's been, well, it's been one of your themes in recent days. And for veterans who worked so hard in that country, who tried so desperately to create a peaceful future for the residents of places like Kabul, it must be, well, it's almost sickening.
Yeah, I think, look, it's not really about me or any one individual veteran. It's, you know, you join the military because you believe in the nation state and you're proud of what we do as a nation abroad. You know, it's not, you know, I've heard so much, we can't do anything about the Americans. So we don't pay £40 billion a year into a defence budget in order to not leave the gates or be able to do anything without the Americans. The British public don't expect that. The people who are serving certainly don't expect that.
Is this the nation state you're fighting for, son?
And supported these people who saved our lives, who worked with us. And we have a duty, irrespective of everybody else and what everybody else does, we have a duty to get these people out. We have a duty to extract, if we are going to extract, in an orderly fashion. It's very hard. I never thought I'd see the day, you know, where I'd see, you know, us essentially surrender to the Taliban. And it's, you know, it's now becoming a rout, and I just, I'm so sorry to the people of Afghanistan, and I just, you know, I would urge the UK government to really step up its efforts in terms of contributing violence to this, you know, to this, to what we're trying to do. We're not going to get there through diplomatic and other means. We have to protect people who are trying to leave, and we have to leave in an orderly fashion. And, you know, I hope that the Defence Secretary and others feel that they're empowered to do that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the Defence Secretary, because he's written in one of the newspapers today about these plans that were mulled over to perhaps have some sort of NATO alliance in Afghanistan without the US, of which the UK could potentially have been part of, to try and maintain stability and maintain some sort of peace. Do you think that idea was for the birds all along?
No, not at all. I mean, Turkey have stayed there, and you know there were about 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. It was a low-risk commitment, as we were maintaining it, you know, in the early part of this year. And those troops were specialists in the areas of the Afghan army you need to work on: enablers, terminal controllers, bomb disposal experts, a special forces capability. Those are the things that, you know, the backbone to any military effort, and we could maintain that with very few people and very few costs and very small risk. But this is a political decision. You know, we have politically chosen to be defeated by the Taliban. And, you know, we have to accept that. You know, personally, I find it shameful. I think it's out of keeping with our values and our principles. I never thought I'd see the day, either as a serviceman or as a member of the Conservative Party, where we would essentially surrender to the Taliban and leave these people to their fate. But that day has come, and now we have to deal with it. You know, my heart goes out to the people of Afghanistan. I've been on the
Don't worry, the women are going in.
You know,
the women are going in.
You know, they're already using.
Come on, Radfems.
You know, sex as a way to exploit the population. It's appalling what's going on, and yeah, you know, it's a very, very difficult time. I think all, you know, UK ministers and the Prime Minister will be very careful about underplaying the impacts this will have. Okay, in Afghanistan, but also on the service community and veterans in this country. I think they should be very careful before underplaying that.
And when you hear a spokesperson for the Taliban saying that the transition will happen peacefully,
that has already been taken over by Taliban.
Taliban whitewashing posters with women.
To take over the capital by force.
Come on, women.
As per reports,
pick up those
Ashraf
guns.
Ghani, who has been said that he has given up on power, but we'll play out the first reaction that comes across from his spokesperson saying that Ashraf Ghani still continues to
remain
president. However,
I just noticed the lasso around his nuts.
At the presidential palace. Also, another update. What may happen, especially to the women there, is it now going back to haunt them? Those are actually stores, some boutiques there in Kabul, which actually had the advertising with women, their faces being shown, the dresses that they were wearing, and it is all now being painted. They are now being painted, the posters where it had women's faces on them, they are now being covered. And this is happening by force right now. All the advertising posters showing women are now being painted over. This is the true face of Taliban. This is the true face of Taliban, which is now coming back to haunt the women and
wait, we've got a woman.
Right
powerful woman.
The official takeover that has not happened. We still know that the talks are underway, but look at what is happening in Kabul. We're looking at advertising posters of women that are now being covered. So this is what is the fate that awaits the.
Come on, woman.
Yeah, it's something that we and many other political parties have been calling for, including a number of the Conservative backbench MPs that you have spoken to over the last few hours as well. There was a growing consensus that we needed to hear a clear strategy from the Prime Minister about how to deal with what was becoming a catastrophic
Aren't all the women going in?
Situation.
Aren't you going?
It's extremely good news that the Prime Minister has decided that he's coming to the House of Commons, but I suspect that this has taken so long because the government doesn't have a clear...
Shut it. I like the based Indian chick. Come on. Paint those women. No sound.
अब से सिर्फ 4 कदम आगे वाली चक्की चलेगी। आशीर्वाद आटा यानी 4 स्टेप एडवांटेज, बेहतरीन गेहूं, 3 बार सफाई, पारंपरिक चक्की विधि और बिना आटे को छुए पैकिंग, श्रिंक रैपिंग के साथ। आशीर्वाद आटा 4 कदम आगे।
अब ऑफर्स शानदार। सिलेक्ट करें आशीर्वाद।
Similar scenes at the UK embassy with staff being airlifted out, being taken to the airport and being brought home. So it is ongoing, it is happening. I mean, Parliament being recalled is all well and good, but what actually is there to discuss? It's all over.
Well, look, the first thing is that we have seen action taken in the last 24 hours to evacuate Britons, but the government is still dragging its feet over the very many Afghans who supported the British Army, who supported the British media and others over the last 2 decades. And only last night, the Home Secretary, or sources close to the Home Secretary, was suggesting that she was reluctant to grant sanctuary to many of those people because of the message it would send to other refugees in other parts of the world. That is utterly shameful. That is not who we are as a country. And so we need a clear message from the Prime Minister and a plan in place to make sure that those people are evacuated to safety. The Taliban is already targeting them, and this will unfold in the matter of hours. The consequences for them are appalling if we don't take action. And so we need the government to change course on that and get serious.
Send in the women
later this week when Parliament is recalled, but right now. But then we need to see the Prime Minister stepping up and showing real leadership. You know, we are members of the UN Security Council. We are still the president of the G7. We should have been using our convening power over the last couple of weeks as leading members of NATO, a country that commits a significant proportion of spending to NATO. We should have been a country.
Your future, ladies.
What we must now do is make sure that we agree a response with international partners to avert what is going to become a humanitarian disaster, that we agree a strategy to deal with what will be a refugee crisis, and that we bring partners together, including regional partners, to make good on that promise to the Afghan people of a secure, safe, inclusive state, which we've been fighting for the last 20 years.
I'll be interested to get your thoughts on something the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said. He said that when the US announced its plans to withdraw, he had approached other allies about taking their place, but none was willing to do so. I mean, you've read the article, I'm sure, today in the Sunday Telegraph, saying it was arrogant to think the UK, which is also pulling out its troops, as we know, could resolve the situation unilaterally. Do you agree with that?
I mean, most of the support that we've been providing to Afghanistan over the last few years was in training and supporting the Afghan police, Afghan security forces, to try to get to the point where the Afghan government was able to hold off the Taliban themselves and provide that support themselves. And the US involvement was incredibly critical during that period because of the air support that they were providing and other technical and intelligence support alongside us. When the US made a decision that they were going to withdraw, that clearly risked the entire operation. But although Ben Wallace has said in the last few days that he thinks that that was a mistake, that there were efforts made by the Ministry of Defence to try to persuade the Americans otherwise, we've heard absolutely nothing from the Foreign Secretary, not a single word since this has unfolded. There's been no confirmation from the Prime Minister that he has been or is talking to the United States government, trying to see what support they can continue to provide. And what that has clearly done is sent a very strong message to the Taliban that they have a green light to advance across the country because there won't be serious implications if they do. And it's also clearly had a major impact on the morale of those Afghan forces that we've invested so much time and energy in supporting. It is really difficult to look at this and see anything other than a very, very shameful episode for this government in the way that they've behaved.
But it's all in the past, isn't it? It's all in the past. I mean, as I said earlier, we're looking at live pictures now of Kabul. The Taliban have been circling the capital. They're now moving in. There's talk of this transfer of power. It's happening. And the Taliban aren't going to listen to what Parliament is saying next week, whether it's recalled or it isn't. They have no interest in what our government has got to say, let alone the opposition. It's done. It's over. We're out.
I would think so.
I don't accept that at all. The Afghan people are listening very closely to what Britain has to say. Many people, including a number of friends that I've spoken to who are in Afghanistan over the last few days, feel utterly abandoned by the British government, but they don't have the luxury of despair, and they want to know what we, with our long involvement and history in Afghanistan and many significant achievements with progress that has
Legion,
been made over
Roman
recent
salute
decades,
to you,
are
sir.
going
Comfy
to do
live
to make
stream.
good on the promises that we made to the Afghan people. This is important for them, and it's also important for us. If Afghanistan is allowed to become a haven for terrorist and extremist groups again, we are going to see significant implications for Britain. And that's why the Prime Minister owes it to the Afghan people and to the British people to come to the House of Commons to outline a strategy. He should be able to build a cross-party consensus in Parliament to support that action. We want to see humanitarian assistance going in very quickly. We've cut aid to Afghanistan by 77% in the last few years. We need to see a reversal of that and support in place for people there right now. And we need to see the government stepping up. What happens next is not inevitable. There are things that the international community can do to support the Afghan people, and we need to send a message loud and clear that all of that progress made at great personal cost and sacrifice by British troops and the Afghan people over the last 20 years, we are not prepared to just stand aside while that is unravelled.
You get your gun and go. Go on.
Inclusive and secure Afghanistan must still be our goal, and we are adjusting to a new reality, but that makes it even more important that we work
Send the
with our
whamming in.
allies and international partners in order to come up with a plan and build a consensus around that.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you go in a moment, but the big question now really does seem to be, doesn't it, when, not if, the Taliban takes Kabul. And we are just hearing from Afghanistan's acting interior minister, who has said the security of the city has been guaranteed. There will be no attack on the city. The big city and the power will be handed over to a temporary third party, and it is our duty to secure the city. Don't be a victim of the Taliban propaganda.
There we go. Breaking. Leader of Taliban, Mullah Abdul Ghani, Baradar has entered the presidential palace of Afghanistan with the help of #Qatar and green light of United States. He is now negotiating with Ashraf Ghani. Ghani will resign and Baradar will become president of the Afghanistan. There you go, folks. That's even more official, I guess.
Kabul will be safe. Don't worry, there won't be.
Will not attack on Kabul, and they will.
Yes, I don't think there's going to be much action, folks.
Some districts like Baghman,
Mike Watchman says they're taking back their country. Yes.
Fell to Taliban. And right now in Kabul, some shops, banks, and markets are closed. Meanwhile, thousands of people from other provinces of Afghanistan displaced to Kabul, and they are living now in a bad situation. Now, from 34 provinces of Afghanistan, about 30 provinces are controlled by Taliban. Ismat Niazi, Republic News, Kabul.
Let's also take a look at the latest updates now coming in from Kabul. In fact, we've also got a phone conversation with the spokesperson of the Afghanistan government. Let's listen.
Yeah, well, come on. Republic World, come on. GD Bakshi.
Hello, is that Mr. Amiri? Hello. Hi sir, this is Aishwarya Kapoor. I'm calling from Republic, India. It's a #1 news network of India, sir. Can I just take two minutes of yours, sir?
Will Nihon take any refugees, my lord?
Is it official?
No.
That has the president
Not a chance.
Resigned, sir?
Right now I can't talk.
Sir, just one answer, sir. Has the president resigned, sir?
Please.
Just one question, sir. Has the president resigned?
Sorry?
Has President Ghani resigned, sir?
Of course not.
Sir, but sir, has the Taliban leaders come in the Afghanistan palace? The Taliban claims that they are taking over, sir. Sir, am I
Is that the embassy? Is that the embassy?
Up to now, the president is
There you
not
go.
resigned.
There you go. That's what all those troops are fighting for. There you go, America. There you go. Global homo.
And for a good settlement, if any progress, if we find any progress, I will let you know, okay?
Sir, but is it true that you are also looking for a transition as if that the president of Afghanistan is all set to resign and hand it over to Taliban? Is it a possibility? Because that's what Taliban claims, that it is inevitable now.
They're there.
Hello, is that Mr. Amiri?
Hello.
Hi sir, this is Aishwarya Kapoor. I'm calling from Republic, India. It's a #1 news network of India, sir. Can I just take two minutes of yours, sir? Sir, is it official that has the President Ghani resigned, sir?
Right now I can't talk.
Sir, just one answer, sir. Has the President resigned, sir?
Please.
Just one question, sir. Has the President resigned?
Sorry?
Has President Ghani resigned, sir?
Of course not.
Sir, but sir, has the Taliban leaders come in the Afghanistan?
A response. That is the right and proper place to do this. There's still no meeting scheduled, as far as I'm aware.
Is that really the Afghan embassy
on air? And the government ought to be pushing for that, so that conversation can take place.
All those men.
About what power sharing in Afghanistan is going to look like in the future. Things have changed fundamentally in the last few hours, and we've got to adjust to that new reality, and we've got to step up and respond.
Okay, Lisa Nandi, Shadow Foreign Secretary, many thanks for your time this morning. Much appreciated. Well, listening to that was Foreign Affairs expert Tim Marshall. As we approach the end of the hour, Tim, be good to get your reaction to what Lisa Nandi was saying there. She says that it's important that Parliament, or it's vital that Parliament reconvenes. But I'd put to her what you said to me earlier. What's the point? It's a talking shop. The Taliban aren't exactly going to be listening.
No, just as they weren't listening to the EU last week when the EU said you run the risk of being isolated if you take over Afghanistan, as if they care. I mean, Parliament does need to meet. They need to sort out how many refugees the UK will allow in, how many people they're going to bring out, etc. And we need to discuss what is an abject foreign policy failure. her last comment about what power sharing is going to look like in Afghanistan, I think we know the answer to that. I think it's going to look like complete control for the Taliban. I think that's what the power sharing is going to look like. People already are on the move. There's the refugee. Well, there will be refugees if they can get across the border. The Pakistanis are talking about expecting perhaps up to 800,000 people. Well, if there can be a peaceful transfer of power, perhaps not. Here's some, I think this is probably the Spin Boldak border crossing. You can see those fences there. Pakistan has been building a fence as long as much of the border as they can to prevent refugees. They closed this border for the past few weeks. The Taliban put pressure on them to open it. And if it is open today, these people will be pouring through. And Pakistan already has up to 3 million Afghan refugees.
All right, Tim, many thanks for now. We'll speak to you again a little later, I'm sure. You're watching Sky News. Coming up, more from Afghanistan as the Taliban enter the capital, Kabul. These are the key developments in the last hour or so. A Interior Ministry official has said Taliban have entered Kabul from all sides. US diplomats have been evacuated from that building, the US embassy, by helicopter. Meanwhile, the Taliban says it is in talks with the government for surrender. It wants a peaceful transition of power. It has called for members of the Afghan armed forces to return home. Meanwhile, the eastern city of Jalalabad has fallen without a fight. We've seen pictures of the Taliban streaming into that city and meeting with no resistance. We'll have all the details for you at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
That's the US Embassy in Seoul. I was going to say, that would be some pretty in-your-face fuck yous to the Islamic world, but yeah, now you say Seoul, I recognise the building architecture. Thank you, good doggy. I think, folks, we've seen the most of it. I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see any.
Actually, there was an attempted bank robbery.
Sorry, jihadi terror. No, not terror. It's suicide helicopters. I think it's all done. Now we'll just watch the retreat. All the deals have been made, papers signed, and that's it. So I just wanted to, a pretty historic occasion, I guess. I may as well get it on stream. Thank you for those that supported the stream. I'm gonna get out. I've been sat in this chair for a long time today. And I will see you guys in the next stream. Global Homo just took a kick in its inverted nuts, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. Misinformed on location, but still on a US embassy, but in another place. Yeah. Like I say, what are you fighting for? That doesn't represent me, I'm afraid. I'm not in my name, and you won't spill the blood of my children for that, I'm afraid. So with that, I am going to get out of here. Thank you very much, folks, for watching. I think we're just going to be watching repeats and etc. I'm not going to watch no beheadings today. No beheadings. But wait. The Saturday football will be turned into Saturday beheadings, or Friday beheadings, maybe. But yes, there you go. News of the day. All let's say, may you live in interesting times. So, salute, guys. Take care. God bless. I will see you in the next one. Got to get kids.